Hello everybody, it is I, Crisis, and I'm here with a rather large haul around the world of all the books that have arrived so far in 2026 to my house, because I have not been able to pick them up with my right arm before now, and so they've just been accumulating. And so before you judge me for how many books there are, I counted, and this is a third of a year of books. So it's a lot of books. And you can still judge me, but just know that this is how many cubic meters of books that I'm adding to the house in a third of a year. Also, I look a little different than normal. Here's the thing. They're growing in popularity and acclaim, if you can imagine. And so when I decide to just do a stream at the spur of the moment, I can't always get them here. So I looked into some alternatives to what I could present on stream to you. And so I was thinking, this is actually something that I have hauled around the world. This wig is a Wigs by Vanity wig, a very famous wig company in Australia that's owned by a drag queen, Vanity Fair, and also Courtney Act, who is the drag queen that got me originally watching Drag Race. So I think it's very fun to own a wig by them. And there's more, but I don't want to show them all off. So just know that this was hauled around the world. And then this is an actual wrestling mask that I ordered from Mexico. It's an actual, it's all bejeweled. And so I have some variety to show off, because sometimes the hair and makeup team just cannot get here. So let me just tweak some audio levels. And I know I didn't like put this up with any kind of warning, so people are just rolling in. They're like, what is happening? And I feel that way too. I don't have a ton of time today, and there's so many books. So I'm just going to say hello. I'm just going to say hello. I can't do Australian. I'm going to say hello to the few people who've popped in so far. Superjob, who has been binging through things that we're not even aware of. Daria is here. Samantha on a Monday morning, hopefully not too wet and gross up there for you in Auckland. I know we had some major weather events in New Zealand. Hello to Richard Fearing, Cedric and Ellen. Bonsoir. And that's it. We're starting with a small crew. So look, I have so many books. They're not in any kind of order. I have four massive stacks. And so we're just going to start plucking books off the top and talking about them. This is Lazarus, Volume 8. So last year, Lazarus finally came back from its long break. This is my favorite comic book. Not this particular trade, but this series by Greg Lucca and did I say Lucca? It is early in the day, and you know what? I think that time that I spend with the makeup team really helps me gather my thoughts. By Greg Rucka and Michael Lark. I was portmanteauing their names. And you've probably heard me talk about this a lot of times by now, but we've really come back for the end game here. You know, we're in this world that is increasingly imaginable in our actual world, where the all of the major oligarchs of the world have divided up the nations to be under their control after kind of a major stock market falling out event. So they all have a warlord for their family that does all their negotiation and enforcing, and Lazarus is the warlord of this particular family. It picked up without missing a step. And if anything, the stuff that came right before this was the scope was getting so expansive, and it was starting to feel like so many families and intrigue was in play that like I really needed something resolving to happen. And it did at the end of volume 7. I really think if they stick the landing, this is probably going to go down as my favorite comic book series of all time. I read it digitally, I buy it in floppy, and I buy it in oversized hardcover. Because I actually do enjoy it in all of those formats. I like to read it digitally as it comes out. I like to then page through the trade when it comes out to like refresh my memory of the storyline and to like see it all in one place. And then I do like a serious reread when the hardcovers come out. But that is the only new series I buy physically, I think. Oh, I get Kaya, which we might happen upon a Kaya somewhere in the stack as well. Kaya. But those are the only two current series that I pick up. Hello, D. Marcel. Welcome to your 22nd live stream. Who is it? So you guys got to inform me. Is it luchador or luchador? I get, because if I was speaking French, I would think it would make a k sound. And if it was in the middle of the word. So I'm sorry, I'm culturally appropriating right now. But you know what? As I was shopping for this mask, and I have a few, I looked through probably conservatively 300 different masks, and any of them that seemed super culturally appropriative, that had like religious motifs or something that seemed like a cultural motif to me, I kind of set aside and I just looked for things that looked shiny, basically, that didn't have any possible appropriation. But if I'm appropriating, please let me know. I'm appropriating wrestling culture. Superjob has started Top Cow Cyberforce, but yes, I really want to do that. There's only so many hours in a day. Hello to Pasta Jensen. Luchador. Okay, web swinging teacher, you've taught me something, and now I know. Luchador. Luchador. Is it luchadore? No, that'd be if I was Italian, which I am. Okay, let's pluck something on which we gotta just keep moving. Okay. There's a lot of DC Finest because they were pumping them out at the end of last year. This one is a thickum. This is really big. Does it have page numbers? 640. That's about where DC Finest top out. If you didn't know, I have the DC Finest tracking sheet that I manage with Joey Hines and Charlie Pote that has not only every release DC Finest and a map of where they fit together in terms of years, but then all of the speculated volumes in between. I can always pop it in the description if you haven't seen it. And so we know how long each of them are, and we use that to estimate the gaps in between, much like we do on the Tiger Eyes poll. And there are ones over 600, but 640 is getting to as big as they will be. So this is Green Arrow, The Trial of Oliver Queen. And it is effectively the second post-crisis Green Arrow Finest because it collects Green Arrow number 9 through number 20, as well as a brief crossover with the Question Annual 2, and then some other material, including the Black Canary Tales from Action Comics Weekly. That's really cool. Action Comics went weekly for basically a whole, not quite a year. And had not only a Superman lead story, but a Green Lantern lead story, and then a lot of supporting stories from a number of different characters. Black Canary, Catwoman, it's all something I've tracked in the Action Comic Guide on my site, and they have not been consistently collected. So it's great to see them here, and it kind of answers a question about this line, that it's almost certainly going to collect all of those small Black Canary inventory stories in the Green Arrow line, which makes sense because Green Arrow turns up there too. I don't think I've ever read into this. I love Grell's run, but I truly think I only have read like the first year of Grell, and I love it. I still stand by that is the best DC Finest that has been released so far. So I'm actually really excited for this one in particular. This is a run. I'm not buying it in omnibus. I'm not tracking them down. I do not collect oversized DC unless it is Wonder Woman, Wildstorm, or Sandman universe. So this is going to have to suffice, and they're moving through it at a pretty big clip since we already got to 20. I think that the Grell run runs to like in the 80s. I don't know. I have a Green Arrow guide for that purpose. So probably another 3 of these, but I could tell you for sure if I had that sheet open in front of me, maybe I should open the sheet in front of me. Maybe because you know what? Because we have this computer now that can do those things. I have so much stuff just casually open on my computer right now that typically on the old computer we would be in a crash and burn situation. So this is what we estimate to be Green Arrow Volume 10, which sounds insane, but you have to think that it starts in Golden Age, and I think we're going to need several volumes to get through the Golden Age, either 4 volumes or 5 volumes. Then there's Silver Age, which might just be 1. And then there's some Bronze Age to get through as well, which may be 2. And now I have to incorporate all of the Black Canary material that previously weren't sure about. So then we have Longbow Hunters, which I think is 8 or 9. Then we have this one, which is probably 10. To get to the end of Grell, we're going to need another 1, 2, 3, probably 4, maybe just 3 if they keep going as big as this one. And I do think with Green Arrow, there's no incentive for them to be collecting anything other than Grell because, like, people want it. It's already been out in another format. Just get that one out in omnibus. We can always come back later. How do I get the updated tracking sheet? I got an old one from last year. What's on Google Docs. So if you still have the link to that, it's updated. It maybe didn't look updated a week ago because we had to update it with all of the new stuff from the DC catalog. I have to say, I've been spending so much of my time recently with the DC catalog because I needed to update the sheet, so that took a while. And now I'm methodically working through all the guides on CrossGen Krisis to update them too. I think I'm only on B because Batman updates take a while. But I did, my Grant Morrison guide is fully updated. I've improved the reading order a little bit. I've put in links to all of the new Absolute editions. I've described the new expanded casebook, so really happy with that. I have updated the Robins guide with all new stuff that has been released for each of the Robins. And over the weekend, I finished a patrons only still page that is the index to Batman ongoings that are not what I think of as big three Batman ongoings: Detective Comics, Batman, and Legends of the Dark Knight. So I have a page that covers like Batman Confidential and Shadow of the Bat, and I hugely renovated that page. Crisis taking the crushing, literally love the luchador mask. Thank you so much, Mr. Kyle. This is another DC finest, and it's material that I know well. It is Wonder Woman. Enter the cheetah. This covers Wonder Woman from 1943 and 1944. It's following essentially the same map that is in the omnibus line. So it's collecting a big chunk of Sensation Comics, and then Wonder Woman, I think, was only quarterly at that point. So only 5 issues of Wonder Woman. Kid Crisis has read all this material recently. I've read probably at least half of this, and I've seen every page of it. I mean, I just love Golden Age Wonder Woman. I think it's so cool. I love the art, and I love the storytelling, and I like that it's about like women with each other. There's not a lot of Golden Age superhero comics, or even Golden Age like romance comics, where women actually talk to each other. They do not pass the Bechdel test. So very excited to have this. Of course, I've got it in omnibus, but if I'm going to get the whole DC Finest line, I'm going to get the whole DC Finest line. Okay. This is, so the thing is, my actual hairline, I'm not bragging, I'm just informing. My actual hairline is here, as you have seen on many occasions. But for many people who wear wigs, their hairline is higher because I'm like a mutant with like the lowest hairline that anybody could have, which it makes it hard to put on a thing like a professional wig, I've discovered, because by the time you like pull the wig down and like glue the lace, I'm into my eyebrows. Like there's only this much space between my hairline and my eyebrows. So as I'm learning that craft, it's not like I'm going to shave hair off just to wear wigs on the days the hair and makeup team can't get here. So that's where the luchador mask idea was born. I was like, okay, how can I sometimes get away with wearing wigs and make my life a little bit easier? And I was like, oh, I can wear a luchador mask. But then the mask keeps going. Like there's more. Yeah, but this simulates my actual hairline. So that's what we're going to stick with. Okay. There's honestly, I have to pick up the pace if we're going to get through all these books. Here's a new DC Finest line that is debuting. It's the Demon with Birth of the Demon. So this is all of the earliest material of the Demon Trigan. It is from 1972 to 1981. So this has pretty much all of his classic stuff, I guess. Yeah, it's got the Demon 1 through 16, which I have never read. I know, I'm pretty sure there's an omnibus. Oh, I see Clarion the Witch Boy there. I'm pretty sure there's an omnibus of this. Again, DC, not my forte, and I don't have a demon guide, so no promises. But I really do enjoy this character, and I do love 70s Kirby. I think I like 70s Kirby even more than I like 60s Kirby. So that is really exciting for me. But equally as exciting, so I was doing a little research into the Demon, as I'm not working a guide on it, but I needed to know for the DC Finest poll, or not the Finest poll, what is it called? The DC Omnibus poll. And there's a lot of uncollected Demon, or kind of like sparsely collected Demon. There's that whole John Byrne Blood of the Demon series from the 2000s. So there's plenty of stuff for that line to go through, trying to catch a couple of questions and comments as we go. Thoughts on Defenders returning to the MCU? I loved the Netflix shows. I think the Netflix Marvel shows, the New York Defenders, whatever you want to call them, were some of the highest quality Marvel content that Marvel had ever made. Marvel Television really kind of knew what they were doing at that point. I think Luke Cage's first season is a total masterpiece, total home run. If you've never seen it, it's so good. I think Jessica Jones season 1 is really, really good. Season 2 is fine. And then I think Daredevil, of course, was great. I've not seen any of the new Daredevil. I just don't have a lot of time to watch TV in my life. But eventually, I'll just have 1 week where my brain wants to turn off and I'll just sit down and binge it. But I'm pretty happy. I just think they're all such good casting, and also Finn Jones. But Luke Coulter, as Luke Cage's, or not Luke, Mike Coulter as Luke Cage, is just perfect. Kristen Ritter, I've never really been happy with as Jessica Jones. I just think Jessica Jones isn't that kind of fine-featured and delicate looking. I think she's a much more kind of like average looking woman, almost more like Kate Winslet in Mare of Easttown. Not that Kate Winslet is average looking, but the way they kind of just dialed her down to look like a random cop from Delaware County, Pennsylvania. That's very much how I picture Jessica Jones. So, but Kristen Ritter acts the heck out of it, even if to me, I am so particular, and you've heard me say this about Hugh Jackman before as Wolverine. I'm so particular about casting, maybe because I've done, theater and I've like cast people in photo shoots and stuff, that when they cast somebody that to me just does not meet with who that character is in my brain, I'll never enjoy that series of movies. Like, as much as I love X-Men and I love watching the X-Men movies, and I've rewatched them actually recently, Hugh Jackman is not Wolverine. He's just not. I love Hugh Jackman. He's incredibly charismatic. He's very fun to watch. He is not Wolverine. So to me, the X-Men movies will never be like 100% because they're just not there. It's not a Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man casting for me. It's not a Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool casting for me. It's not a Famke Janssen as Jean Grey casting for me. So for me, Alias, even though, or whatever it's called, Jessica Jones, even though it's very well made and Kristen Ritter acts it really, really well, it's never going to be 100% for me because it's not my Jessica Jones. And you know what? I think that's fine. It's fine for me. We don't always need to love every media property so hugely and so unequivocally. It's fine to not love it totally. Okay, here we go. Is Jessica Jones Alias a good place to start reading? Yeah, you can. Alias assumes nothing. In fact, at the very beginning of it, it's not entirely clear that it's really in continuity because Bendis is getting away with so much stuff that you're like, surely this can't really be Marvel. This is like Max or something. And as the series runs on and you see more and more how Jessica Jones is woven into the fabric of the Marvel universe, you realize that it is. I think as the lore goes, he originally wanted to do it as a Jessica Drew series, but some of the things that he wanted to do with Jessica Drew, Marvel is like, oh, I don't know about that. And so he made this character up from scratch. But yeah, you can read Alias totally on its own. It's got a little bit of Avengers that pop into it at one point. It's got a little bit of Spider-Man that pop in, but you truly don't need to know anything about the Marvel universe to read Alias. And it's a great read. It's really great. It's a little challenging and it's mature. There's sex and drugs in it, but it's a really, really good comic book. Okay, Robert Secuntis, hello, my friend. Fan of the luchador mask. Looks awesome. I've considered sewing one myself for streaming and things since I want to keep my face offline. I mean, those horses have left the paddock. Is that a saying, or are we just pointing it for me at this point? But I do look a certain way on streams, and if I can't get myself to look a certain way, I would like to just still be able to come online. Especially, I mean, this took maybe 12 minutes to do as opposed to the normal hair and makeup process. So that was nice. Who's my fan casting for Wolverine? I don't do fan casting, unfortunately. Not to like shut you down. I'm not trying to like no but you, but I just don't watch movies and I don't really know about actors or anything like that. I just know when I see them. Very, very rarely there'll be somebody I fixate on. Like I remember when Melissa George was on Alias, and so this is like, you have to think 20 years ago. When I saw her and heard her accent, I was like, that's Emma Frost. Now, unfortunately, she's too old to be Emma Frost. But for a while, after I saw her, I kind of just knew in my heart that like that's who I would want as Emma Frost. Every so often, I'll have one like that where I'll see somebody and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that's blah. But I just don't. It's one of those things where I don't like how I don't have characters that I get like super crazy about. Even though I love Wonder Woman, I don't have that like go online and fight about Wonder Woman battle board type of behavior. I'm not gonna make a fan cast of her. Like I just it's like, or just like how I always say that I don't find illustrated characters attractive. People are like, oh, you only like that book because it's got a lady with breasts. I'm like, they're drawn breasts. In that same way, I just don't have the brain chemistry that allows me to do fan casting. I don't know. Okay. This is a series I love. I haven't unwrapped it yet because I've read this at least 2, maybe 3 times all the way through. So I'm not going to unwrap them until, although I should to like check and whatever, but I'm not until it's time for me to read again. Birthright. This is volume 2. So we've got the whole thing. There's like 25 issues per. Yeah, this starts with 26 through 50. I love this book. I love it. Every time I can pitch it to one of you and get you to like it, I'm so excited. I think this is my favorite Joshua Williamson book, actually. It has absolutely stellar art by, you know what? I can only think of the colorist name, Adriano Lucas. The artist's name is Brazon, Andre Brazon. But Adriano Lucas goes on to color a lot of stuff that we really enjoy right now. I want to say he's the colorist on Nightwing by Tom Taylor. But this is so cool. It's like a kid gets lost in the woods or maybe kidnapped, who knows. His family goes crazy looking for him, and I'm only spoiling the first issue. And then not more than a decade later, I think something like maybe a whole decade, maybe 5 years later, but not like a whole lifetime later, he returns as this like big Conan dude with a sword, and he comes back. And so now what used to be his older brother is his younger brother. His family has splintered apart, as a family might, going through that kind of, that kind of event. And also there's suspicion that was his dad involved. Did he kidnap him and take him away or kill him or something? And so now he's back. But in addition to all the familial drama, also there's this other world that's trying to break through, or like have an incursion into our world, and he's kind of defending against it, but he's kind of like trapped in the middle. Like, just the fact that he's here in our world is putting our world at risk, and he wants to defend our world and see our family again, his family again, but the longer he does that, the more we're at risk. It's so readable, it's gorgeous. I mean, the art is great, and I just think that it's a perfect, I love a 50 issue series. I love a series that's big in scope. A lot of big things happen. I like it coming to a crescendo right around issue 44, 45, and then I'm leaving some room for some denouement. And I think this does that perfectly. The whole last 5 issues are kind of just like resolving things. I love that. That to me is so much more satisfying than a series that just builds and builds and builds and then has like a climax, and then maybe we've got like half an issue of things happening after the climax. No, man, I want to see where all these characters wind up and what happened. So I really, really love that series. Highly recommended. It's available in very cheap trades, especially the first trade you can get for very, very cheap. Cedric and Ellen loves Birthright. Lance the Library saying greetings to Crisis and the Crushers. Crisis, have I ever owned any of the black and white Marvel Essentials? I've recently found myself grabbing some. I do. I wish I had bought more. I have the first few X-Men ones. And then I was like, oh, I can get these, that was at the time that OHCs were starting to happen. So I was like, oh, I can get Mutant Massacre and Fall of Mutants and OHC. I don't need all these essentials. I wish I had bought every one. They used to be so cheap. You would see them everywhere for like $7, $8. They were everywhere. Used bookstores, eBay, Amazon. You could have bought every single essential for probably like under $500. But the thing that I did that was smart was, before Epic Collections, when it seemed doubtful Marvel would ever get to collecting things like niche things in color, anything that was just like a 2 essential series of something from the Bronze Age, I just bought them all. So I had Spider-Woman, Dazzler, Power Man and Iron Fist, Moon Knight. I bought all of those essentials. And of course, eventually Epic Collections happened. All of these characters got omnibuses, not Power Man and Iron Fist together yet, but Dazzler got an omnibus, Spider-Woman is getting an omnibus. That's crazy. But at the time, it just seemed so remote a possibility that Marvel would ever care about that stuff that I said, you know what, this might be the only way we ever get them. I am just going to gather them all together in essentials. I love the essentials. They're great for reference. They're great to look at the line work. They're like a great, easy, packed read that's not as heavy as an omnibus. I really, really enjoy essentials. Robert Secunda saying 50-75 is the perfect length of a comic. I had no idea Birthright went that long. Kind of a miracle for a book wrapped in 2021 to reach 50. Well, that's the one thing I'll say for Robert Kirkman and Skybound. I think it was like a Kirkman idea. That's almost every series at Skybound, unless it's like a close personal friend of Kirkman, is like a Kirkman little morsel of a gem, of a crumb of an idea that they gave to an editor to like develop with somebody. And so I think it's more like creator participatory than creator owned. I could be wrong about Birthright, but that is generally how Skybound works. And so Kirkman, I mean, he's built a great machine. All of his other stuff subsidizes the smaller stuff. So if he's desperate to tell a 50 issue story and it looks like the book only has the sales to get to 40, he has enough fuck you money at this point that he could be like, nope, that's going to be a 50. So, I mean, that's, it's great for Kirkman, and 50. I love that it never had to speed up. It never had to compress. It really felt like they hit everything they wanted to hit. See you next Tuesday is here for the first time. Welcome to you. Love my dedication and contributions to this community. In my opinion, I think I'm a huge positive pillar of the community. Gratitude for all I do. Thank you so, so much. As you see me on my own channel, you might find that I endeavor to be less positive than you are used to me being on Near Mint Condition. But you know what? I do think that we need to build a space that allows us to hate on the comics, and when they're bad, or when we just hate them. They could be good and we hate them. And in order to have that space, we need to surround that with like kindness and acceptance for each other and being good people in the world. If we didn't learn that from superheroes, what did we learn? Like, if we're not out there standing up for trans rights, if we're not out there standing up for women's rights, if we're not out there looking out for our Black, Indigenous, and Asian and other person of color in our life, then what are we doing? Why are we reading superhero comics? I'm going to come to your house and smack that Wonder Woman out of your hand, smack that Superman out of your hand if you're not doing that. So my whole philosophy, and why I started doing YouTube again, honestly, not that I'm like some huge influential social justice warrior, is like, I just want to be here being honestly me and being loving and accepting of the world, while not being loving and accepting of every single comic book, because I think that's just so important to have. And I hope that by me doing it, you all feel the urge to maybe do a little bit more in your own own life. There's this one hair in your own life, even if you don't do it for everybody to see online. So I really appreciate you feeling that way. And it's literally the reason that I am here. I always wondered, I'll grab the next book while we say this. I've always wondered if Bendis didn't consider Dakota North in addition to Jessica Jones, or in addition to Jessica Drew for Jessica Jones, because Dakota North is Jessica Jones, but you couldn't get away with the whole she's just discovering she has superpowers because she's always kind of been her own kind of private investigator. So I don't know if Bendis wouldn't have been able to do everything. If you look at Jessica Jones's powers, where she's like kind of strong and she can kind of fly, it's very Spider-Woman coded, except for she doesn't have venom blasts. So I'm not sure he could have executed. I like the Dakota North. You can't go wrong with obscure 80s Marvel limited series with me. I'm gonna like it. Even Iceman, which for me is one of the weaker ones, or like Nightcrawler. Even those kind of like bad X-Men limited series, it's just my strike zone. All right, let me show a couple books, and then I'm going to pick up with this Nikki's 2006 comment in a second. And I also see some questions about Drag Race. So great, we know I want to talk about that. Okay, this is a modern epic. It's so small. This might be the smallest epic. The thing about this luchador mask is I don't have great peripheral vision. So every time I'm looking for something on the shelf, I have to turn my whole body. Okay, the Conan epics are down there. I'm not going to try to get them out. This is small. This is really, really small. So this is Young Avengers. And it's Young Avengers, the Children's Crusade. And the problem is they did so well collecting all of Young Avengers and the prior two epic collections that for this one, literally all there is to collect is Children's Crusade. They've added in 2 issues of Avengers World, which is a good pickup, and a little bit of material from, I assume, the backup story in Uncanny X-Men 526. So they did pad it out a little bit, but this is remarkably slim. The problem is they're up against Marvel now with this. The next modern epic collection will be Gillen and McKelvey's Young Avengers. So there wasn't really anything else this could expand into. I don't buy all of the modern epic collections because I own so much of it in trade. You've heard me say, and this is true, that the only ones that I buy are ones where I feel like it's recollecting existing stuff in a more coherent or more complete way than I've already got it. So for Young Avengers, I really was interested in that middle volume that had all of their like mini series during Civil War and Secret Invasion and stuff. I have all of this, but it's nice that it picks in those 2 Avengers World issues. And actually, curiously, Avengers World 15 and 16, which they pick up here, that is after Gillen and McKelvey's Young Avengers. So that's confusing. Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, that's really weird. That comes far after Gillen and McKelvey's Young Avengers. So I don't know why you would put it in here. I'm trying to remember, are they like backup stories? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's weird. That should be in the next epic. If you can figure out why it's mapped that way, please leave a comment because I cannot fathom why you would have done that. Okay, let's just do a couple more. I swear I remember doing this on stream, but then I looked in my hauls and I didn't. I think it must just have an issue that's been collected in something else we've talked about. This is Fantastic Four Epic number 13. So it has Fantastic Four 232 through 248. This is, and the title is Back to Basics. And I think the reason they titled that and the reason they have this run and the reason they have this cover is this is the start of John Byrne's run proper. This is where John Byrne fully takes over the title. If you look at the Fantastic Four by John Byrne omnibuses, there's some Byrne material before 232, but this is like where it really begins. This is great. Like if you're interested in reading older Fantastic Four, but not Stan Lee and Kirby, or you already know Stan Lee and Kirby, and you're like, where's a jumping on point? This is the book. This is where you start. I think, as much as I love Fantastic Four by Tom DeFalco, it's great, but I don't think you start Fantastic Four by Tom DeFalco and are like, oh man, this is incredible. Like, I just don't think that's a reaction you have at the beginning of DeFalco. It's more a long haul thing. Before this, there's no good jumping on point, really. There's a lot of creator changes, but I wouldn't say anything is remarkable after Lee and Kirby. And then I like the Claremont LaRocca stuff from 1998. I don't know if I would tell anybody to start there. I think the next place you would tell somebody to start is Wade and Ringo, which is in, what is that, like 2004 or 4? I'm going to say 4. I can't remember off the top of my head. So this is like the best starting place for 20 years before that. So yeah, this is really, really fun John Byrne. It's drawn really well. He puts the team through their paces. and it really feels like he's got some cool big ideas for the team, and that is really really enjoyable. So I actually have sold my omnibuses because I don't have all of Fantastic Four in omnibus, and I'm an all or nothing kind of gal. It's like, if I'm not going to collect that whole line in omnibus, why do I just have these two? And so when I realized I wasn't buying the classic Fantastic Four omnibuses, I was like, okay, well, let's just get rid of these, and then we can just have it in Epic. Of course, I have it all the way up to burn in up there, Masterworks, but I think I'm actually going to start getting rid of Masterworks soon because I have it all in Epic and some in Omnibus at this point. Okay, back to a couple comments. What's a series, recent or older, you wish kept going? I mean, anything by Kelly Thompson. I'm always like, oh, that's it. I like The Call by Kelly Thompson and Mattea De Lewis, which only had 4 issues because it was so work intensive for Mattea De Lewis. I know that's not what you're looking for. You're probably looking for like a longer running indie series. Oh, I have a great one that probably a lot of you haven't read. It's actually my number one. I can say this with confidence that in the past 5 or 6 years, it's probably the one series that I was the most gutted that it ended early, which was an Image series called Fair Lady. And let me see if I can bring up some information about it so I talk about it correctly. But the concept was that we were in this fantasy world, and actually we're in a town that was built around the remains of a fallen giant. And so we're kind of like in your standard sword and sorcery world, but we're at very kind of low level. It's kind of like there's a local wizard that's in a tower, and there's that, but it's not like a really super high magic world, or if the world is high magic, we're not in the high magical part of the world, if that makes any sense. And this is written by Brian Shermer and Claudia Balboni. I'm trying to think if I guess Claudia Balboni is the artist, yeah, and then Marissa Louise, who's a colorist. And you can actually read the first issue on the Image website. If you just go to image.com slash, oh, that's so too long to tell you about. Yeah, go to imagecomics.com/read/fair lady, all one word. I'll try to put in the chat. But the whole concept of it is that she's a private investigator, actually shades of Jessica Jones, and women are not supposed to be private investigators, but she is. And she has this big, her sidekick is this big cat person, and every issue is just a self-contained issue of her investigating something, but you're starting to kind of uncover everything that's wrong in this fantasy world. It's just so cool. I love a good low fantasy series, even though actually it's high fantasy because it has all those elements, but it's it's high fantasy world, low fantasy story, and I really really enjoy that. I was heartbroken when I found out that it didn't continue. There's a few Image books like that where I'm like, oh man, it was so good. Another one that I feel that way about is Gogor by I forget the artist, but it's a writer artist, and he actually, to finish the story, he put out his own trade paperback to finish it, and I could not get it in New Zealand. Ken Garing is the illustrator, and you can get that first issue for free at image.com read Gogor. So they are two of my favorite, they're like two of my all-time favorite Image books, and both of them are from the past like 5 or 7 years, and they both just like ended way 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 too soon. So that hopefully is a nice comprehensive answer to that question. Nikki's 2066. Hey, Bunk, Essentials also double as coloring books. Yeah, I mean, at the point that you've got to collect it in some other format, you absolutely can tear out pages and use them as coloring book. Richard Fearing, I'm so happy you liked Birthright Volume 1. More forward, I am up to date with RuPaul's Drag Race Season 18. That Lollapalooza, I had my doubts because I was like, all RuPaul songs. I love RuPaul songs. I mean, I dance around my house to RuPaul songs almost daily. But I do think to create the kind of viral moment that we got last year with like Susie doing APT with Corey King, you kind of need like a song that itself is well known and can go viral. That said, this year's cast is just so entertaining that there were so many great moments. I literally rewatched it twice yesterday. I just think there's such a great group of drag queens, and it just gives me so much life and so much confidence that like there's still more great drag to be seen on Drag Race. It's not kind of Omar. Super Drop, is this a Fabian Nicieza hate allowed zone? I mean, there's all sorts of hate allowed as long as it's of creative work on this channel. I personally do love Nicieza, and I think he can do no wrong, but I'm not going to go after you for it. Hello, Ted2968. Crisis moving my head like Batman in the 1989 series movie. I'm just trying to see around the corners. Okay. let's do a couple more books and then I'll get some more comments because, oh my gosh, there's so many books. So I'll show, this is a new thing for me. So Dark Horse has been really, I'm sorry, this is riding up onto my eyes. My nose is so squashed. For next time, I need a little piece of foam. Do luchadors do that? Does anybody know? Do you have a luchador inside connection? Do they put a little piece of foam right there? Because my nose hurts so bad. Okay. This is a Dark Horse compendium of barbed wire. Yes, she of the Pamela Anderson movie. So the reason I have two books to show is that I've talked about Ghost in the past, and there's going to be, I think, 3 compendiums to collect all of Ghost. I'm pretty sure we showed it the last time I did a haul, which was in December. But here's Ghost, and it's big. This is one of the biggest compendiums I have, other than Death and Return of Superman. Oh, and it's really hard to put back on the shelf. But they all spun out of this Dark Horse Heroes Omnibus, and this was called what was it called? It was called like the Comics Greatest World or something like that. And I know I've talked about it before, but World of Power maybe. But I finally remembered to pull it out of the stacks while I was doing some organizing. And basically what it was these weekly series, and they're all really cheap. I forget if they're like 25 cents or $1. This was X, who went on to have his own books as well. And so they Comics Greatest World and Will to Power. Each issue of each quartet of comics introduced one new hero. It was basically a pilot season pitch, but there were 4 different worlds that they went through, and there was 4 heroes kind of in each world or section of the city or whatever. So here's the next one that came after X, which was Arcadia. And so they each got an issue to kind of sell you on it. And then over the course of the issues, they really built out the story of the worlds. And then together, they kind of pitched what what this whole assembled world could be. And they were all different kinds of heroes. Some of them were street level heroes. Some of them were kind of like true superheroes, but it just was like, building a whole comic world from scratch. That kind of stuff is catnip to me. So I had a lot of the singles, but I started to look to track down each of them one by one to get it all together. This is where Ghost came from, barbed wire. And then I was like, oh, they put it all in one book. And I had some really cool creators working on it, including Adam Hughes, who did the original Ghost, Doug Monk, and also Paul Chadwick, who does Concrete, who I love, Jerry Ordway, Terry Dodson, so Mike Mignola. So there's a lot of really cool creators. This is a pretty old Dark Horse book. I want to say that was like a 2008 book. Let's see. 2008. I'm so good at my job. So I've always had this, and I've been meaning to just sit down and read it. I think if it was not in my top 100 reads, it's definitely still pretty high, and it just wasn't in the top 100. But then anytime that Dark Horse puts out any kind of collection of one of those characters, I really pick it up because they mostly existed as I was already out of comics, so I missed them entirely. So this is pretty much the complete barbed wire, starting all the way from Comics Greatest World. And actually it has all 4 chapters of her particular area of the city, the Steel Harbor Week. So that included Barbed Wire, The Machine, Wolfgang, and Motorhead. None of the rest of them broke out, only Barbed Wire did. Then she got her own series, that's here, all 9 issues. Then Barbed Wire Ace of Spades, a miniseries, and then she got another series that ran another 8 issues. And so this is all collected. This is not volume 1 on the spine. It is just the complete Barbed Wire until they continue to do some new Barbed Wire. These Dark Horse compendiums are really nice quality. And I feel like it's a similar build to the Ghost one, but the Ghost one was so big that I was a little bit worried about it, like its stability. Even looking at it on the shelf, it makes me nervous. Is it twice as big as this? It's just about twice as big as this. This at this size, the build is perfect. So I'm really excited to read that. Like, I don't really know anything about barbed wire other than the Pamela Anderson of it all. So I'm really, really interested. Logan Wayne, yeah, the Iceman Limited series, people always are saying like, oh, it should be collected with X-Men. No, it shouldn't, because he was in the Defenders at that point. And it has nothing to do with the X-Men. Super Job, I need to ask about Lazarus. Do I think they're doing an OHC of that single trade? No. There's going to be 20 more issues of this new series. That's not the whole new series. That's like issues 1 to 4 or 1 to 6. Where I don't know where I shelved it. It's already gone. I have no object permanence. I'm like a tiny baby. Once something goes on the shelf. Oh, there it is. This is, I think it's only, is it 4 issues? It doesn't look like it could be 6, but let's check. 6, it is 6 of Lazarus Wisdom, but it's going to go to 20. So yeah, it'll either be 2 final OHCs or just 1, depending on how long it goes and what Rucka wants to do. So don't buy the trade. Superdrop thinks the burn is the best Fantastic Four run. Nick started with DeFalco and loved it. Look, I'm not saying anytime any of us gives one of these recommendations, like start here, don't start here. Clearly, you can start anywhere. And you know me to be a huge proponent of like just start reading the comics. Just start where you start. That said, there are certainly points that are friendlier and better than others. Chris Brogan is here asking if this is my Mummers cosplay. That is a deeply Philadelphia reference. For those who don't know, in Philadelphia, there is a New Year's parade called the Mummers Parade, where people get in very, very fancy dress, and that's very glittering and sparkling. It's effectively drag. Some of it is intentionally drag, and huge parade floats and things. But they all compete, and different areas of the city and different neighborhoods have their own Mummers troops, and there's string bands, and there's fancies, and there's I forget what the clown division is called. It's not called clown, but it's a Philadelphia tradition to go and watch it. I've certainly lived in South Philly before, where I could walk to Broad Street and watch it on the day. That's where I was living in 2007. So I love the Mummers. So great deep cut made me feel a little slice of home. Also, sometimes Mummers can be deeply, deeply racist, because that is the kind of people in South Philly who've been. I mean, you're dressing up in sparkly clothes as clowns and painting your face and playing a banjo semi-professionally on New Year's Day. You're absurd. There's no reason. There's no room there to be racist or sexist or whatever. You're a silly person. Silly person. Silly people can't afford to have hate in their heart. Okay. Runaways an epic. I know. I mean, it just feels like Runaways is not a seller for Marvel. Like every time they dip their toe in, they're like, never mind. But on the Tiger Eyes poll this year, the Runaways by Rainbow Rowell, shocking me, was like number 62 or 63, was right out of the top 60. So I think Rainbow Rowell has really like ignited a whole new layer of fandom. Max Appleman has a list of some mainstream Marvel books he wished has lasted longer. Lee Williams' X Factor, yes, and they really screwed her with how quickly they ended it. Nova Centurion, which I haven't read yet. Ziegler's Deadpool, which Max and I love, and I think Ziegler should still be writing Deadpool. Like, I'm sure it's good for their marketing. They've got Ben Percy on it, whatever. He does write a good Deadpool, but it should still be Ziegler. Ziegler's Deadpool is the best Deadpool we've had in 10 years. McKay's Doctor Strange and the Krakoa era in general. Secunda is saying hard-boiled detective fantasy so rare, something I've wanted a lot more of. It's an easy thing to pick up and read online. Fair Lady looks good. Nikki's saying I'll definitely check that out. Y'all, it's exactly, if you've heard me talk about how much I love Birthright and also Alias, it's, and kind of sort of a little bit Lazarus, it's right in the strike zone of that. It's right in that kind of zone. And it's, to me, it was so astoundingly good that I was like, how are not people not buying this? But fantasy by a new author that doesn't have a following from a big two is really, really hard to accomplish at indie. Although I did just think of another book I wish I'd continued. I thought it was within arm's reach, but I'm not seeing it, which is Local Man, which we know I'm obsessed with, by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleeks. And that made it to 15, 16 issues. But even, Tim Seeley is a pretty big name, and Tony Fleeks is a pretty big name, could not sustain an indie superhero book longer than that. Logan Wayne asking, what was my first thought when I saw that it came in at number 2 on the Most Wanted poll? So spoilers for the Tiger Eyes Most Wanted poll. We streamed that a week ago on Near Mint Condition. The full results are on the Near Mint Condition Patreon. I want to put them on my Patreon too, but there's only so many hours in the day. I'm really trying, y'all. Number 2 was an X-Men Blue and Gold book, which obviously Marvel's going to print. And I think on all of the Most Wanted polls, there's always this inherent tension between maybe we should vote for a thing we're pretty sure Marvel is going to do just to remind them we really do want it, versus, ooh, they're definitely going to print that. I don't want to waste my vote on it. Let me vote strategically. If you saw my top 60 votes, I voted very strategically. I didn't have any of that stuff near the top of my list. I didn't vote for any sure thing omnibus. Some people, though, really want to show that to Marvel. And I do think that it does serve a purpose to show Marvel, like, hey, even though Fatal Attractions omnibus just came out, we all still want Blue and Gold too. I do think that there's a purpose to that. Y'all, I got to move a little more quickly through this pile of books, or we're going to be here forever. I'll just say hi to Richard B., who loves the mask. I hope you're doing that as well. Lance, I tried to find hair that was really close to the purple hair that I used to have back in 2016. It was many tones darker than this because it was much more purple. It was only this color pink in the back. But in terms of the haircut, my hair did really look just like this. And I feel like it's kind of settled down as we've sat here for a while. So it was just this, but it wasn't as peachy on the bottom. It was much more purple. So I kind of just wanted to like find hair. I mean, spoilers, there are some other wigs in this room, but I wanted to start with one that like resembled something that looked like something I had done. Okay. This is another Flash. What are they called? DC Finest. I was expecting, before I looked at how it fit into the sheet, that this would be the next one after the first one, which I think is, where's Flash? Human Thunderbolt, which is, of course, the origin of Silver Age Flash. No, this is much, much farther. This is actually Bronze Age. It starts from 1970 and it goes to 1974. So your question might be, and this is called, by the way, the fastest man dead. So let's see, how many volumes do we think it would take to get from the Human Thunderbolt to this one? So Human Thunderbolt left off with Flash 123. This picks up with Flash 197. So I think we could possibly get here in, let's see. So this actually started a little bit earlier than they originally solicited. Originally, it was solicited to be 205, and it starts at 197. I think we could get to 197 in 3 more volumes. So from Human Thunderbolt, we need 3 more to get to here. So I need to make some revisions to the DC Finest sheet. Look at that. But I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about the material. I don't know who the creators are. Let's just open it up and see who the creators are. Gil Kane, Mike Friedrich, I think. Robert Canaire. I've never even had to say the names of these DC creators out loud because I don't really know a lot of DC. You have to remember, before these finest started happening, there was no DC for me to get. Yeah, it's a lot of Robert Canaire. I don't know. And also Mike Friedrich. So there you go. Let's just bang through a couple. Okay. Here we go. Oh, that was here? I think that was here already. I don't know. Is this new? Is this new? I think this is new. Let's see when it was printed. I'm pretty sure this is new. Oh gosh, it's so small. Yeah, this was printed in December. So this is the Punisher Epic Collection, relatively rare. We really have been getting them slow going. This is volume 8 of Punisher Epics. It is Punisher Survival, and it has something that looks very familiar to me in the back because it collects this original graphic novel, Deadly Genes, with Punisher, Sabretooth, and Spider-Man. What a strange arrangement. This collects Punisher pretty late in his series, 76 to 84, right before a big crossover, I believe, that begins in the next issue with 85. But this is only collecting the main Punisher title. It has some annuals as well, and also the OGN Punisher man named Frank, but it doesn't have his other 2 series because that's not how the Epic Collection collects. I'm glad we're getting it because this is Punisher that has never been collected before. However, I, as you heard me say, both on this channel and in the Tiger Eyes poll, really would like to get Punisher collected with all of his series all in one place. Eric Garza is just finished reading Drome by Jesse Lonergan, and some of the best sequential storytelling I've experienced in a long history of reading comics, recommended. I don't even know what that is. Is that pretty new, or is it something old and indie that I just have no idea about? I totally don't know. Shadecraft by Joe Henderson is a really good one too. I don't think it's going to continue. I liked Shadecraft. I don't think I liked it as much as the prior one, because Joe Henderson was the one that was doing stuff with Lee Garbett, right? They did the one where the whole world had lost gravity. That was the Skyward. I liked Skyward more than Shadecraft. Shadecraft was good, and I really thought they built an interesting world, but it just didn't feel as deep, though. Oh, I love the reveal handstand. I often felt throughout the season like Juicy Love Dion, who's quite possibly the best technical dancer that's ever been on the show. Marsha is a pretty good technical dancer as well. Juicy Love Dion, I felt like, was such a good technical dancer, but sometimes she was in such a hurry to get out of her restrictive clothes at the beginning. She just wanted to lip sync. The girl needs pacing. And even when she started to take her stuff off at the beginning of that lip sync, Athena Dion in the background was like, too soon. But it was because she knew where she wanted to do the handstand, so that made sense. But I think watching her is like watching a special effect. Some of the moves she does, like that handstand into the full split, it looks like you're watching a James Cameron movie. Like, it doesn't look real. Okay. I think they just buy masks that actually fit. Who does? Somebody, not me. Love hair. I don't know who buys masks that actually fit. Me? I don't know who the they is. Okay. Lots of luchador masks will have a cutout right beneath the nose. Oh, we're talking about the nose. I also think that adding structure to different parts of the mask for fit is pretty normal. Well, here's the thing. Because my face I have a pretty small set of features and they're kind of low, this is where it wants to sit, which doesn't, look how my poor red nose. This is where it wants to fit, but it's already like in my eyes. So I have to wear it a little bit lower to leave room for my eyes, but I'm like crushing my nose. So I think I do need to add a little bit of structure to it. I do think it's a pretty good shape for my head. Like I was surprised putting it on. Like it really hits all the places I think it's supposed to hit, but the nose, it's just killing me. And I have a pretty big nose. So there you go. Good evening to Kane. Hello. Robert Scunch started Fantastic Four with Miller, which was wild, but very useful the following Hickman run, which follows up on a lot of the Miller stuff. Okay. Let's just keep, if you saw how much was here, you would say, Crisis, stop talking. All right. I actually don't know if this is new. Because it's mixed in with stuff that Kid Crisis has been taking off the shelves, and I just realized that it's mixed in with her stuff, so I'm like, this is probably new. Micronauts, I mean, we're just slowly moving through. This is Micronauts 3. It goes from 51 to 50. Oh, 51 to 59, making it truly one of the shortest ones ever. So I don't have anything to say about it. I've never read any Micronauts. I'm waiting for them all to accumulate on my shelf. Marvel has a license for a limited period, so it's pumping them out. Okay, and then here's some more stuff the Kid Crisis took off the shelf. Oh my gosh. Notice that I can actually lift things with my right arm now. Woot woot. All right. Here is Marvel Fanfare Omnibus Volume 2. This collects Marvel Fanfare 20 to 40. So they split the series exactly into 3. Do I have some qualms with how they did this? Yes, let's talk about it. Marvel Fanfare is a 60-issue series, and then there was another Marvel Fanfare that was only like 6 issues in the 90s. I know the reason Marvel split into 3 is because they had to make a certain amount of profit per book. And if they made bigger books and they only did it in 2 volumes, which obviously based on the size, they could have split one of these in half and put it one on, each side. They wouldn't have made enough profit to make it worthwhile. And I think they solicited that first one and they saw what the sales bar was. And so then they said, well, we can get 2 more. But if it was going to go to 3, I wish they would have put that other Marvel Fanfare series in the 3rd one. It's not a huge qualm. I get that it's not the same thing and it's not the same level of prestige. It's just anytime there's a chance to like collect some little tiny pocket of Marvel that otherwise might go uncollected, I want to do that. So there's some cool stuff in here that I actually know. There's a cool Captain America story I know, a North Star story, and of course that one famous X-Men story that is kind of sort of, I think, part of Quest Probe that's written by Chris Claremont. So I actually am familiar probably with more of the Marvel Fanfare stuff in this one than I did in the previous one. I don't know that this is a book that anybody should blind buy. Marvel Fanfare is basically just an anthology series that mostly is 1 issue per story or 1 story per issue. Sometimes there's a second backup story, but it's just like the best of the best creators of that time from Marvel and everywhere coming to just do single issue stories or at the most 3 issue stories. So it's a much higher pedigree than Marvel Comics Presents. If you're familiar with Marvel Comics Presents that started in 1988 and you're like, oh, is it just more of that? No, this is a lot closer to the quality level of Marvel graphic novel because it was a direct market only series and it was really the best of the best of the best. So it's really good stories, but because they were all anthology stories, they were stories that sometimes had been scripted for other books and got set aside from those books, or they were stories that kind of just exist on their own in continuity. So it's really, if you just want to read some really, really good 1980s Marvel without worrying about continuity and where it fits and getting the whole run, if you just want to read 60 issues of what Marvel considered to be the highest quality that they could produce in the mid 80s, that's what Marvel Fanfare is. Robert Scunch is saying Doctor Strange is run by Jed MacKay. So good. MacKay's stuff outside of X-Men has been delightful. Yeah, X-Men's the only thing he's come close to missing on. And I think I can feel the inherent tension there where the missing parts of X-Men or the parts where he misses is because he feels constrained by what editorials insisting X-Men ought to be. He's got a lot of good ideas there. I like the team he brought to it and everything, but I agree. Everything else by MacKay is great. And he's one of those ones, Marvel better enjoy it while they've got him now, because it's not going to be too long before he is on indie. And then Marvel's going to wish they had done more with him while they could. This is the first Epic collection, I believe, collecting any of Walter Simonson's Thor. It starts with Thor 337. It's a straight sprint through 356. This is Epic Collection 13, The Suture War. And right on the cover, we have that super famous confrontation between Thor and Beta Ray Bill. And the delight here is that this has the original colors of this run. It is not the recolors from the Walter Simonson omnibus. It has been a long time since we have had the original colors in print. There were a series of Walt Simonson visionary trades that had the original colors in them, and that is it. So It has been a really long time. I love these original colors. I'm not against all recolors as a blanket thing, but I don't think the recolors of this Thor add anything. And I think they look incredibly, incredibly dated at this point. This is an amazing run. It's a great place to start Thor. If you don't know anything about Thor, it's a fine place to start. It's so epic. It's one big story. There's a reason it's everybody's favorite, even after all of these years. Richard B42 saying Hickman was my first Fantastic Four, but I normally point new people to Wade and Ringo. It's basically the perfect Fantastic Four run. Yeah, if I had to say there are 5 great places to start the Fantastic Four, I would say Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I would say John Byrne. I unfortunately would not say DeFalco, even though I love it. I would say Wade and Ringo. I would say Hickman, because you can just start Hickman. And I think a book that good will make you curious to go back and read what it references. And Ryan North. This new Ryan North is just remarkable. And it was in the top 20 on the poll. It's the only, I mean, not that we had a lot of current-ish series on the poll, because a lot of stuff just hasn't wrapped up yet. But we had Cody Ziegler on Miles. I thought that would do well because it was such a great run. We had recently concluded Deadpool. We had Immortal Thor by Ewing. We had Hulk, Incredible Hulk by Philip Kennedy Johnson. I was sure that Hulk by Philip Kennedy Johnson would be in the top 60 because I know there's a lot of curiosity around that run after Immortal Hulk. And I also really thought that we had, what's the other one I really thought we would see up there? I really thought we'd see Miles, because Miles we have everything in Omnibus already. So Miles fans, I really thought we're just going to like see that and be like, oh, great, it's the next Miles. Let's get it. But no. So let me do 2 more questions. Lansing knows that I've mentioned I'm not as much into the comic book movies. Are there any that stand head and shoulders above the rest for me? I mean, I've been working my way through the Marvel movies, and I actually recently watched a ton that I'd never seen before. I watched Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 from Marvel, which I'd never seen. Spider-Man 2 is one of the most awkward viewing experiences of my life. The Mysterio one, Far From Home. Every single part of it was terrible. I don't understand anybody who likes it. You are an alien species to me if you like that movie. I really thought every line read, every setup, every single part of that concept was absolutely embarrassing. I would have been embarrassed to be a caterer on that movie, let alone an actor in that movie. Then I assumed I was going to hate No Way Home because I was like, well, that was terrible. And I was like, well, it's late at night. It was during the whole injury saga, so there were limited stuff I could do. I said, great time to catch up on movies. Then I watched Far From Home, loved Far From Home. And not just because it had Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in it, spoilers, but because it just felt like Spider-Man. It felt like a Spider-Man movie, finally. It wasn't just some twink swinging through Europe. It felt like Spider-Man doing Spider-Man things. Do I think they'll ever do the Gerard Jones Green Lantern Finest? I do. I really think they can't avoid him forever. And I think getting it out in Finest, where they don't have to really front his name, and in fact, they could maybe just not put his name on the exterior of the book. I don't know what the legality of that is a chance to get it on the market and not in an omnibus. And importantly, test how many people buy it. I think if they put it out that way and it sells like gangbusters, DC might be like, oh, people are not, most comic fans are not even aware of the Gerard Jones stuff. They just want the material. So I do think that. Okay, let's keep going. I got this. I think I ordered it the day of the last stream. I'm only missing 2 more Tick books. You know, I've been through this journey to try to get all collected Tick because I wanted to do a Tick guide, and I realized there's no digital, so you can't read Tick other than like old scans of his original comics. And I will always, if there's a way for me to legally buy a book, I will find a way to buy that book. And so I have been searching the whole world, and this is one of the only 2 I was missing. This is Tick, the specials. And so he had a series of specials that were, is this all holiday? I don't know if this is all holiday. No, and it starts with his special in 1998. Then it has Tick's Big Romantic Adventure, Big Summer Fun, Back to School. So these are like seasonal specials, but they're not all holiday. The Year 2000 Spectacular, Tax Time Terror, and they're all black and white, as many Tick comics are. And so I'm so close. So the only other Tick comic that I think that I'm missing, I have to go through one more time this week and be sure. I scoured the internet. I looked everywhere. I looked on every site. I didn't just use Google and eBay. Like, I used all of my investigative skills to do a deep, deep survey of the internet. There was 1 copy in Japan, and I could, or maybe it was in Singapore. Actually, it was in Singapore. And I could not get them to ship outside of Singapore, and I couldn't find anybody in Singapore to reship it to me. And so then, after more scouring, I found a copy of this one thing that I'm missing in Canada, and it would only ship to Canadian addresses. It wouldn't even ship like to the United States. And I was like, well, hold on. I have a friend in Canada. So I said, Curtis, can I just ship this tick book to you now? And we will figure out how to get it to me later, because it might be the only copy for sale on the internet outside of Singapore. And he was like, yeah, sure. So Curtis has my last missing tick book. Let's just bang through a couple of these really quickly because I don't know that much about them. This is Superman, the Invisible Luthor. This is the second Superman DC Finest. It collects Action Comics 26 to 40 and Superman 6 to 11 and some other material. I really don't know Golden Age Superman that much because I certainly was not somebody who was buying the Superman Golden Age omnibuses, but I'm really curious to read Golden Age Superman because I've actually read some Golden Age Batman to get ready for the Morrison streams that we did, but I've never read any Golden Age Superman, so that's really exciting. And boy, do we have a lot more Superman books that we need to get all the way to the Silver Age. So then here is a Namor of the Submariner epic. This is volume number 5. It is The Invasion of New York. This collects Submariner 50 through 72 in Marvel Spotlight number 27. See him battling Spider-Man on the front there. So 72, I want to say, is the final issue of that Namor series, isn't it? Let's see. Let's pull up some Crushing Crisis here. So that Namor series, Namor the Submariner 1968, yes, it goes to 72. So the question is this the end of the Namor epic line? Well, here we get into something interesting because Namor very briefly appears in Defenders, but that had already happened during this. The next place he is in after this is Super Villain Team Up, which does have its own trade, which I'm almost sure. Yep, I've got it right here because I've been waiting to put it on the shelf next to these epic collections. So this is an old trade of Super Villain Team Up, which is Super Villain Team Up 1 through 14 and 16 through 17. 15 was a reprint issue, and this is a full color collection in the style of the, it's not even all that old. I want to say this is like 2016. Yeah, no, 2015. So this is in the era of epic collections. I'm sure they were never sure they were going to make it this far in epic collections that we would actually need this in epic. The problem is that this book is as much Namor's book as it is Dr. Doom's book. So this thing is the next Namor epic. But he is only in it through issue 14, and Dr. Doom is in all of it. So if we do the next Namor epic, it's going to be this minus, let's see, how much are we going to take out of it? Where I'm still seeing Namor. I'm going to continue paging through until I stop. No, he's, even the issues that he's not like in super deep, he still appears in briefly, all the way up to there, I guess. So that's how much epic we'll need. And then after that, I think we'll put in Prince Namor the Submariner 1 through 4, 1984, which is a limited series. I don't think they'll reprint Saga of the Submariner in Epic, even though, because it recaps a lot of things that are already in Epic. And then we'll be all the way up to John Byrne. So I do think the next Epic collection of this line is this, plus his 1984 miniseries. Now, I said that there was a problem. The problem is that if the Dr. Doom epic line continues, Dr. Doom is also going to fully collect Supervillain Team Up. I mean, it was his series. So I know epics have had no problem with that kind of double dip before, but to be fair, that kind of massive double dip was like in the X-Men line where we're double dipping things like Executioner's Song. So I don't know how Marvel's going to deal with it. Will they skip it for Submariner? But I just can't see skipping it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So, you know, I very rarely buy current comic books in trade. Lazarus, Kaya, one other one. Actually, I have 2. We'll just do 2 at once to keep this theme. I really don't, because I'm happy to read them digitally. I now think I'm probably in the second half of my life and thinking about all of these physical things. And if I'm going to get to read them again, I know it seems like I have so much stuff that's coming in these halls, but I truly think about everything that I bring into this house, including this wig. And like, am I going to use this many times? Is it going to bring me delight? And what happens when I need to get rid of it? Is it just more trash? Have I created more trash globally and more waste globally by having this thing flown here and then the packaging it was in and only to use it once or twice or read it once or twice and then throw it away? I'm really thinking about that. So for me to buy a current series is a really serious commitment, and there are very, very few. And one that I very regularly buy is Wind by James Tynion and Michael Dial Inas, but he's Greek. So it's like Dialinus. That might be it. Look, names are important and I want to respect everybody's names, but also I'm a dumbass goldfish. And even if you told me how to pronounce it, I don't remember how to pronounce it. So I really try my best and I never mean any disrespect. Here's the thing. First of all, if you get these direct market versions, they are so well built. I love a small digest size book that's hardcover with like a nice hardcover. It just turns me on. I love it so much. They're so fun to hold. And ooh, as I get a huge lipstick stain directly on the book, and that kids are going to abuse these, right? Like they're going to read them again and again. They're going to be on the library shelves. Stupid people in luchador masks are going to rub their lipstick all over them. So like to have a hardcover is really going to stand up. So the standard editions, which are much easier to find, are in paperback. You have to order these as they come out in hardcover. I don't know if there's any way to catch up on them. I love Wind. You've heard me talk about it on the pull list. Kid Krisis reads them. I read them. And then we don't read them together, but then we get together and talk about them sometimes. I just love the series so much. It's a very, very queer, high fantasy world where it's people against fairies, against vampires who probably mostly can all get along, maybe not the vampires, but it's about one kid in the middle of this who maybe is a bird person, or maybe people just think he should be a bird person. And his kind of experience coming out as a bird person, he never has to come out as gay because he's obviously gay from the beginning. I love that in a kid's book. It's just all about friendship and love and what it means to be different and what it means to find your people. And I'm a huge, huge fan of this book. But another current book that I bought in the hopes that there would be another one, and I will say there is. I'll try. You already saw it. On the spine, it says 1, which gives me hope. This is one of my top 10 comics of 2025, Ghost Box. And here's the thing. You can probably read it right now and you don't even realize, because if you haven't canceled your Amazon yet and you have Amazon Prime, this was a Comixology original. And I do believe in America, if you have Amazon Prime, I think you can read all Comixology originals for free. So you might as well use Bezos' server resources for something and read it. I was obsessed with this. It is written by Mike Carey, and the art in this from Pablo Raimondi, colored by Jose Villarubia, was incredible. I love this. I mean, if you watch Pull List, I talked about it all the time. I would have loved if it was an oversized hardcover, honestly. But it's about this box, this ghost box, that has magical properties, and it absorbs the souls of anybody who dies nearby. And this group of people kind of haplessly wander onto it. And inside of the ghost box is this crazy realm that's kind of all fabricated from all different parts of history. It kind of reminds me of elements of The Dreaming and Sandman. And so there's these very bad, scary, creepy people who want the ghost box and they want the realm within. And now it's with this unwitting person who doesn't even know what it is or what it does or why it's important. And also we have to learn what makes the ghost box, what allows it to have all that interior space, what allows it to capture souls. And the answer is very surprising. As a single miniseries, and I want to say that this is 5 issues. Yeah, it feels very complete. It's a whole story. I mean, Mike Carey, nobody does it like Mike Carey. And this is incredible. It's actually published by Mad Cave in physical, even though it was on Comixology. So I'm always curious to see who Comixology has contracted out to do their physical books with. Or is it author by author or all of Comixology? I don't know. This was $19.99. So if you get it on DCBS, which might still have some Ice-T, which might still have some copies, it'll probably be 12 or 13 bucks. It was a really good read. But again, if you have Amazon Prime, you may be able to just read it for free. And it was one of my top 10 comics of last year. And it's totally, read all at once, continuity light. You can just continuity free. I mean, there's no other book that feeds into it. It just stands alone. Okay. What did I think of this round of finest? 2 volumes of Crisis and 1 of Legend skewed a bit heavy for me on events. Would have liked some more variety. I think with the events, when they have books that are multiple parts, these are just paperbacks. They're not omnibuses. So I think we want to see them bring them out with speed. And so I think it's probably a good thing when they do event books and they get them out quickly. I want to see that. If they're going to do a volume 1 of an event book, I want the next one within 9 months. So I have no problem with that. I do think it's surprising to see them jump to Legends so quick, but I kind of like that they're like super dedicated to putting events in paperback. Marvel needs to catch on, man. We need an epic event line. Marvel hopefully is looking at DC and getting ready to copy their homework. I think we only have 2 classic Punisher epics left. Let's check that. Marvel Epics. Let me look at my notes on Marvel Epics. So we need 1, which would be all of his classic material before Circle of Blood. Then we have 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't have 6, which will fill in issue 49 to 62. Then we have 7 and 8. 8 is survival. So I think the reason I'm confused is that there's a pretty big crossover that starts right after that Punisher epic, Dallas, called Suicide Run. And I think we have a paperback of it. Like I don't know if it's up here. But at some point, I think Marvel put it out as like a rare standalone Punisher paperback. And I think the next epic is going to have to just duplicate that paperback because it's a long crossover. So then we're going to be in the 90s and we've got to get to 104 to end that series and then to get to the Over the Edge series that came after it. But I don't know if you're going to be able to get from 90 to 104. Yeah, you probably can. Epics are pretty big. So I think 2. So we need volume 1. Then I just don't know if you can get from 85 to 104 in one epic, considering all that crossover material. It might be 2. Plus there's a lot of OGNs. It might be 2. So there's 3. And then we need one more epic after that for the whole 1995 Over the Edge series. I just rebuilt my Punisher guide, so this is very front of mind for me because that series was 15 issues or 18 issues, and then there was a crossover leading into it that you don't have to collect all the crossover issues, but you do need the Alpha and the Omega issue because they are Punisher centric. So that's another epic. So I think we're actually 4 Punisher epics away from hitting the Marvel Knight stuff. If we get 4, then we would be at 1998, which would still be the classic epic line. Have we seen them do Marvel Knight stuff in the classic line? The thing is, Daredevil's line, did the modern epics start? Is the first Bendis #1 in that line? Hold on. Investigation required. Let me look. Daredevil. No, the Daredevil epic line will start modern in 1998 with a volume 1 that starts from Daredevil 1 in 1998. So I think after we get those 4, we will be up to Punisher. Designer Jeans, like Designer Jeans, get it? What's her name? Sydney Sweeney gets it. JJ Schill. Designer Jeans was awful, according to Omar. Yeah, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that I have fond remembrance. Max is off to sleep as if he does not spend enough time already talking to me and seeing my face. Lance Library says, I want to get that Flash DC Finest eventually. I have the first Silver Age and really enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know a whole lot about Flash before Crisis because, again, I have 0 pre-Crisis knowledge about DC other than Wonder Woman. How would I know? How would I know? And but Omnidog really professed to me that it's generally pretty good. Al's in the barn saying it's okay because fanfare is usually 36 pages with no ads. So they are all big issues. That is true. Regarding Drome, small press from 2025, minimal text. It's largely told through innovative panel layouts, basically a creation myth with sci-fi and fantasy bits like Chris Ware meets Mobius. Wow, that does sound pretty cool. I gotta make a note in somewhere. I'm gonna open another window, which I can do now with this computer, and sit and remind myself that I need to check out Drome. Okay. The Thor epic was valuably needed. The Omnibus has the gross recolor. Here's the thing. I'm not against all recolors just as a concept. Like, I'm not a recolor hater. But if you recolor it in the style of the day, a la mode, as they say, it's always going to look like that. So the recolor, if you're trying to recolor to make it look good to today's audience right now, it's not going to look good in 5 years because comics color is always evolving. And I think the problem, even though it was approved by Walt Simonson, even though it was the best colors in the business, right? Wasn't it like Steve Olive or something? The colors were this is what colors look like in the early 2010s. And that coloring style has not necessarily aged well. And now they're stuck with it in that omnibus. And I know that's just me, and I'm just being a hater, but you know what? That's what I'm here to do. Logan Wayne saying there was a book I used to gush about during Pull List. I think it was Prisoners who had escaped, and one of the characters was a white guy, and one was a black woman. What was it called, please? That is called Out of Alcatraz by Christopher Cantwell. I almost bought it physically, and I was like, that was one of those ones where I was like, I would love to have it physically, but I don't see Kid Crisis reading it. I think I will probably only read it maybe one more time in my life. I think I'd be happy reading it digital. But it's a great book, and if you're somebody who reads indie series physically, I've heard that it's a really nice little hardcover, and it's a book that I really, really like. Robert Segunda saying original colors in the Thor epic. Yep, just shot to the top of your list. Spider-Man, the first couple of Spider-Man movies was not Peter Parker. The kid got everything handed to him as silver platter. Yeah, I'm not saying that Spider-Man has to be totally like beaten down and a total fucking loser all the time, but I need a little bit of Parker luck happening. Like, he can't just be like happy and totally rich and successful. It doesn't work there's got to be some kind of downtrodden aspect to him a little bit. Morford saying the best Final Fantasy. That's, if you ever notice in writing, especially in Crushing Crisis, if I am summarizing Fantastic Four, I say 4 instead of FF, because in my mind, I do the thing I just did out loud. If I see FF, I read it as Final Fantasy. The best Fantastic Four is the original Lee Kirby, not a Lee fan in general, but his twee, almost saccharine vibes work so well with the Sweet Family dynamic. I think that is a great, great point. I don't know what's happening, but I love this look. Hello to Wheelchair X. We gotta just try some things to keep us all entertained. Plus the hair and makeup team, you know, as they get more acclaim, I mean, maybe eventually they might make it onto the Glow Up. You never know. That's if you're wondering what I'm doing when I'm not watching movies, I don't have time to watch movies or TV. I'm awake at 3 a.m. binging Glow Up at 5 times speed. Okay. This I actually had to steal under the cover of night last night from Kid Krisis's room, because this is actually hers. It is the new history of the DC universe by Mark Waid and a whole bevy of artists. And I'm so happy they put it out in hardcover, because it's the kind of book that you're going to read and go back to again and again. And I really wish that Marvel had put out Mark Waid's history of Marvel Universe in hardcover as well. But of course, Marvel really does not do standard size hardcovers. My one beef with this book as it was coming out was certainly not Mark Waid's research. It was that some of the artists who they chose, and there's basically 2 artists per issue generally, I just didn't think they were of the caliber to create like the most lasting current version of the DC universe. I'm not going to name names, but I'm going to name names. Todd Knock, who I enjoy on like a Deadpool book or something. To me, his line work is just fussy. And I'm not trying to hate on Todd Knock. I've been a Todd Knock fan since he was drawing New Men for Image in like 1995. I appreciate him. But if I list you the other artists in here, you're going to be like, and Todd Knock. So the other artists are Jerry Ordway, one of the best to ever do it. Brad Walker, Michael Allred, Dan Jurgens. I mean, it depends on who he's inked by. Doug Mahnke, Norm Rapmund, Howard Porter, and Hayden Sherman. Todd Knock for me, great, great classic creator, but he cannot draw pages on the level of the pages of these other artists. So I read that first issue and I was kind of tweaked, but isn't it fascinating that Mark Waid has now done the complete modern history of both the Marvel and the DC universe? Like, he's just that guy. That is just so crazy. This, by the way, does have all of the back matter from the original issues that tells you, and DC editorial did a really good job in this, better than the Marvel team did in the Marvel book. So it tells you exactly where all of these pulls are from, and like it shows the original panels, I believe. Yeah, these are not panels from here. I think these are the originals to explain all of the things that happen that Mark Waid is referencing. To me, this is essential, because as I might actually wind up getting a second copy, because Kid Krisis doesn't necessarily want to share with me. I really think I'm going to refer to this a lot as I'm going through the epics or the DC Finest to kind of like try to figure out like, ooh, does this count? Is this in continuity? Kind of, I really think this is going to be a helpful guidebook to me. So I have to go give it back to her before she realizes it's gone. Okay, let's keep going. We have a Batman DC Finest. In fact, it is the first Batman DC Finest. Originally, it was listed as being Legend of the Dark Knight, but of course, that does create some confusion with the actual series called Legends of the Dark Knight. So it is named instead The Case of the Chemical Syndicate, which is the name of, I believe, the first Batman story ever. Yes, in Detective Comics 27. So here's the thing. Golden Age Batman kind of runs long sometimes. Like it can really feel like a chore to read. These Golden Age issues, they are intense. And of course, these are not full issues of Detective Comics. They're just the Batman stories. But even still, I've read some of them and they're intense. But here's the thing. If you just want a taste, a little of Golden Age Batman, just get this. You don't have to get a whole omnibus. This is a huge hunk of story. It's over 600 pages. It's actually 616 pages. But this collects Detective Comics 27 to 51 and Batman 1 through 5. So it's got a lot of stories, and it does have Robin in it because Robin debuts right at the beginning of Batman. So here is some early Robin working on his punching bag. Or they a speed bag? What do they call those hanging punching bags? I don't recall. So I mean, it's just so cool. And I know there's the whole, like, the colors were not really this saturated. They were on newsprint. But just look at that. Like, Batman was cool from the beginning, y'all. That is cool. So I probably only read, like, this much of this before. So that's and probably, like, the Robin issue. Where So that's as much as I've read of this book. So I can't really comment on it, like, definitively. But I'm just saying, if you've ever wondered about Golden Age Batman, that is a place where you can do it. All right, I got to keep moving through some more books, then we'll do some more comments. Oh, this is easy because I'm not going to open either of these right now. This is Black Magic in OHC. This is a series by Greg Rucka and Nicola Scott, one of the people I would approve to draw my hair, wig or otherwise. I love it. I've reread it many times, at least 3. And I realized as I was looking through my shelf and like I was just doing some organization, I was like, do I not have that an oversized hardcover? It feels like it should have been like right next to my Lazarus oversized hardcovers. So then I was like looking all over the house. I was looking at all my emails of like orders I've made from IST and DCBS and everything. And I realized I didn't have it. So they supposedly are going to get back together and do more of it. In fact, I think as the recent lore goes, the reason Nicola Scott did that Cheetah and Cheshire Rob the Justice League series with Greg Rucka, which is one of the few things for the past 6 months I've read, which was really fun, really enjoyable and fun. I think they did it because she's like, I could just use some bill paying comics so we can get back to Black Magic, which were kind of self-funding. And so they did it. And it was great. I love seeing Nicola Scott draw in the DC universe. This is about a paranormal investigator. So we're kind of, but private investigator. So we're kind of in the alias space again, who is also a magician and a witch. She is cool as fuck. It's such a cool book. She's got like good witches and bad witches in her life, and she's trying to investigate supernatural crimes, and while kind of keeping her witchiness. And in fact, maybe she's not maybe she's a police officer. Now I'm second guessing myself. She might not be a private investigator. Clearly, it's been about 4 or 5 years since I read it. I love this. I mean, I love it. Love it enough that I have it all in trades, and I actually upgraded to a hardcover because I know I'm going to keep rereading it. And clearly I need to because I don't remember the finer points of the plot. But yeah, really cool. And of course, I'm a big Greg Rucka fan. And then another one we're not going to open. I did wind up picking up Savage Dragon oversized hardcover number 3. What they call this is the Ultimate Collection. This collects Savage Dragon 22 to 35, and I think I'm comfortable stopping there. I don't need all of Savage Dragon. I just wanted to kind of like the first 3 image years of Savage Dragon because that's really like in keeping with the rest of my image collection. And I will get the other one off the shelf because we did open that the first time. Oh. And what we discovered is this book was really well built and absolutely gorgeous. Let me take the dust cover off of it. For those of you who've seen the past couple of pull lists, you've seen me do this before. There's this beautiful end paper, and it's different end papers on both sides. And the build of the book is really nice. It's glossy pages. The art does not have any kind of scan artifacts left on it, even though I mean, I don't know if they shot from camera readies or if they had the files that they resurrected with these digital colors, but it looks as good as a book from the 90s could possibly look. And so when I got my hands on it, I was like, oh, you know what? This is a really nice product. And mostly Savage Dragon has only been released in black and white kind of essential style collections. So I was like, I at least want the first 3 years because that's the Savage Dragon that I knew and that I loved. And so I don't know if I'm going to buy number 4 when it comes out. I think I might be happy just to have the first 3. By the way, the shelves over here, they're full double stacked. I'm out of room. This all used to be single stacked. These are now double all the way to the bottom. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I'm truly out of room in this room and in this house. And yet the books keep getting released. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, that might be too heavy for me to do. Am I right? Okay. This arrived this week. It is Harbinger Classic Omnibus. It is all of Harbinger from Classic Valiant. Look how big this is. This is, I think, the biggest one of the biggest ones of all these Classic Valiant omnibuses, which is, if you remember a couple of hauls back, I acquired all. Now, they did a dust jacket as a stretch goal because all of the original ones had dust jackets and the Eternal Warrior one doesn't, which was their original Kickstarter from Alien Books. And I was like, please, would you consider also doing an Eternal Warrior dust jacket? And just like, if it's about the same size as this, could you just like put it under this one in the book? But they're like, sorry, I know why you're asking, but we just can't. So here's the thing. They worked with an international fulfillment partner that they had never worked for before for this. The shipping was very affordable, but it came in a box that was basically just like an Amazon style box that was barely bigger than the book itself. And it had like a little tiny top sheet of bubble wrap on it. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, and I'm not going to make a big fuss of it, but this is really, you can see. But you know, dust jackets exist to take damage and absorb dust. The problem is that the corners on the book itself also got, I mean, that's a pretty heavy corner bump. Usually with a corner bump. I mean, maybe this is blasphemy, but I feel like if you kind of do this and kind of just smooth it out, because all it is, you have to think is just like a heavy cardboard basically under here. So usually if you've got a little crinkle on the bottom and it hasn't actually like snapped the cardboard or heavily bent the cardboard underneath, like this one was a little bit bumped and I kind of just like smoothed it out. So I'm really not, this is not something I go crazy about. But when you get a really hard dent in a corner like that one where the cardboard itself gets bent, it's really hard to kind of like fix it. So it's only 2 corners, and this is a book I'll probably read once or twice, but I'm just happy to have because I really do like Classic Valiant. But it kind of just ticked me off. Like this was really expensive to buy from Kickstarter rather than wait for it on the direct market, and it's expensive to get things shipped from Kickstarter. And so to have this beautiful giant book and then work with a fulfillment partner, when you get a Kickstarter fulfillment partner, you've got to ask them to test your book. You're like, send me a test version of it, even if it means fulfillment's going to get bumped out a week or two. You build that into your schedule. You're like, I want to see you experiment with different boxes. I want you to find the right box. I want you to experiment with different inserts or bubble wraps. I get D&D books all the time shipped here internationally that come here beautifully, that are huge books, maybe only half as big as this, but big serious heavy books, because these vendors that do board game fulfillment know what they're doing in terms of international shipping. So I have to say it's really disappointing. And you know what? Hate the game, not the player. I actually am friends with one of the people who organized this Kickstarter, and I'm not coming for his head. I think he's still a good person. I think they still did a great campaign. I'm still so happy this exists because I think Classic Valiant risked being kind of lost media, and I'm so happy that slowly but surely they're doing it. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Classic Valiant volumes, and we certainly need a lot more, especially because some of those are volume 1s. But it's just kind of a bummer. And also, I believe we kickstarted enough that it was supposed to be gilded pages. Now, I don't actually love gilded pages, and the other ones don't have gilded pages. So I'm the big matchy match on the shelf person who's like, well, if the other ones don't, why does this one? But it was something that was promised on Kickstarter, and this does not have gilded pages. For the best, honestly. And now in the next, if they do another campaign, I'm going to be like, don't be offering us any gilded pages because I don't want them. Now that you've already done it without, I just want to go without. But gosh, I don't even know where to put this. But there you go, Classic Harbinger. Let's do a couple. Sasmirth has a couple of thoughts about being in the second half of life. Probably more books than I'll read and have started reducing the amount I buy. Yeah, as I'm looking at any kind of thing to bring in the house at all, I'm really looking at like, will this bring joy? Is this a thing Kid Crisis is maybe going to get to interact with as she gets older and will be happy that we own? And then if I ever have to downsize in a hurry, am I just going to be happy to get rid of this thing? And because if that's the case, I mean, I could never downsize. I had to clean out the garage. I think I mentioned this on my last stream. Maybe I didn't. But in this brief window between my arm injury mostly being better and before the surgery, which is going to make it worse again, I had to clean out the garage for a project that our homeowners were doing on the house. And as you know, the stacks are down there. I did mention this last time. And I had to go through all the stacks and lift them up box by box. And there are some boxes when I looked at what was in them, I was like, did we need this? If this is a box that I haven't opened in the 9 years that I've lived in New Zealand, did we need this? And so I really try to apply that to everything and really think through that. Kane, Wind is on your wish list. I instantly put it on there based on high praise. I think you'll really dig it, Kane. Super job. Mike Carey has shot up my favorite writers list as I read his Hellblazer run and a sea of great runs he's about. I mean, Mike Carey is one of those ones for me he just doesn't miss. He never, ever misses. Daria confirming that Ghostbox is available to read with Prime. Super job. Even likes Mike Carey's Barbarella run. The Kane saying the Dreaming and the Beacon from the Mighty Nine. Lance saying any DC finest lines I'm hoping to complete all the way through. I mean, all of them, obviously. But for me, I think there's some smaller lines that it would be nice to complete because it would be nice to have all of that stuff that hasn't been collected. And like Blue Beetle is one. I think Blue Beetle would be nice to have all of because it's just not a character who's ever got his due in collection otherwise. I mean, clearly we have a great line of Silver Age into Bronze Age of Flash. So like Flash, I like having them, but I don't think it's critical. Same for Batman. Like we've got so much Batman. For me, it's the ones that I just don't see them being collected really well otherwise. Blue Beetle, Hawkman. I'm so hot for the Hawkman line because I love Hawkman, and there's just nothing. There's nothing. There were 2 black and white showcase volumes, and then there's like the Geoff Johns omnibus, and then we're in the 2000s at that point. So, and then I also, they might be the 2 that I'm mostly excited for. I mean, Plastic Man is cool. I have my doubts that they're ever going to get very deep into that one. Spectre is cool, but he's got some omnibuses. I love that they're doing things like horror and war. I feel like Marvel should be able to figure out the economics of doing that. At the point that DC, I was looking at my Houses of Mystery guide, At the point that DC has done multiple omnibuses and gone back for a reprint on House of Mystery and House of Secrets, I know DC's anthology material is a little bit higher regarded than Marvel's anthology material, but like if DC can figure out how to reprint an omnibus of that, surely Marvel can figure out how to like get us all of Tales of Suspense or like print Sergeant Fury. Like there just must be a way. Super job. Doing Legends is a bit weird since the whole limited series itself is already in the Suicide Squad one. Yeah, I agree. I think it seems like I thought they would skip around between the events Epic Collection style, so I didn't think they would like jump right to the next one after Crisis, but I guess maybe they're going to do like an old one, a new one, an old one, a new one. So they did 0 Hour, then they went back for Crisis. Now they're doing Legends. I'd really like them to either jump past 0 Hour to one of the ones like Genesis or Final Night that we've never had a complete accounting for, or I really would love to see them do Underworld Unleashed. They've never collect that along with all of the tie-ins. Hello to you, Chubby Ray Comics. Everybody, Chubby, he's been such a hit on Near Mint Condition recently. I feel like he's like one of everybody's favorite new panelists that's been on Near Mint Condition for the first time in the past couple months, and he's just was a joy. I think I got to stream with him on the Superman stream. If you haven't already, go and subscribe to his channel. Web swinging teacher saying, why isn't MCP collected us alongside Wolverine's epics? Well, some of it is, but I think they made a decision that like the full MCP experience was going to be exclusive to his omnibuses, I want to say, because I do his epics have everything now. Whoa. Now I'm doubting myself. I'm trying to reach behind me to use Wolverine. Oh, but the ones I have on the shelf right here after. I don't know. I'd have to look at my guide. This is why I have a guide. Okay. They said they just didn't want to take up all the space. There's a question from our own commentariat. Lance Library just started the first Excalibur Epic Collection. That is right up my alley and such a fun, joyous palette cleanser after how dark X-Men has gotten with Mutant Massacre and Fall of the Mutants. Yeah, I love the beginning of Excalibur. Killer Beans saying, will we ever see Warren Ellis Iron Man and Omni? I don't know. I think we're going to see it. I really don't think that Ellis has been blackballed enough in the industry that we're never going to see Warren Ellis stuff again and again. I think that like the rank and file comic book fan have no idea about this stuff. And honestly, my position is like, I love the art, man. I don't care about the creators. I don't care how problematic they were. I care, but I don't care about that when I'm reading the comic book. I just don't. To me, the art exists, and it's not like a solo creation. There were artists involved, inkers involved, there were colorists involved, there were letters involved, and like they were all part of the conception of the art. And you'll hear me say that again and again. The thing with that Iron Man by Ellis, it's just 6 issues. So they probably would do an omnibus of that whole period and just call it Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it would just happen to have the Ellis issues in it. I decided, much to my personal detriment, that maybe I was going to get the DC Compendiums. And this one really bugged me about me buying it because there is a DC Finest line for Robin. We don't yet have a DC Finest line for Nightwing because the Compendiums for Nightwing are collecting basically the Nightwing that exists, the Nightwing book. So there's no reason to also have Finest. But for Robin, they could start with his Silver and Bronze Age material in Finest, and then just knock out a huge hunk in Compendium. But this Compendium, does it have page numbers? Let's see. It's like 1,100-ish pages. So that's only 2 DC Finest. So I just don't, and I know they just announced another one. So now they're getting us, like 2 huge chunks of this run that would have been 4 DC Finest, but I just don't understand this coming out alongside a DC Finest. But what really FOMO'd me, it was Nightwing, because the first one had gone away for a little while, and then it came back into stock, and I was like, oh, there's no Nightwing Finest yet. They might be really sticking to Compendium because Nightwing's like a big seller. People love Nightwing, and especially with how popular the Tom Taylor run was, I was like, okay, let's just get the Nightwing Compendium. I've never read any of this material. I have a comic guide to Nightwing where I made the guide not being familiar with the material, which I don't love to do. So I literally have no space. There's nowhere to put this. So I picked up that one because I also picked up Compendium 2. I do have a sickness. I mean, this is problematic. I do have the excuse that I have one of the biggest, oh my gosh, this is really in there. I do have the excuse that I have one of the biggest comic book guide websites on the internet, and that I truly do need to refer to these things sometimes. But that it's a flimsy excuse. Like, I already have a Nightwing guide. So did I need this Nightwing compendium to make my Nightwing guide? No, because I already have a Nightwing guide. That said, it is a huge website, and it's really nice when I can just walk into this room when I'm working on, let's say I'm working on, I don't know, like somebody's guide where they're in that lot. Let's say I'm working on like a Barbara Gordon guide. It's really helpful when I can just pick up a book and have it next to me as I'm typing and making the guide. And I will say Crushing Crisis, I think it's grown another like 30% in the past year in terms of traffic. And I actually spent all weekend. I had to move it to a new server, and then we had to block a lot of bots that were attacking it, and then I had to reconfigure some plugins, and it's a whole weekend I would have liked to spend reading comics and working on comic guides, and I spent it all on Crushing Crisis backend, which is to say, like, Crushing Crisis is not going away. And for those of you that are Patreon supporters, I know you haven't seen anything exclusive since November on Crushing Crisis, but I am working on it constantly. I just have got to get it up to date because it's like no use doing new stuff if it's not up to date. But your support is huge because I sometimes need to get some really heavy technical things done to it in the back end to keep it alive. Managing an independent website in 2026 is not easy. I understand why people mostly are just YouTubers and podcasters. You have to worry about so many things that I never had to worry about 10 or 15 years ago. But it's really important to me to have it there. And it's really important to me that, you know, part of my loving and accepting of everything vibe is like making information easy for people to digest. And that's where my concept comes from for all the guides. And so that's my excuse for buying the Nightwing Compendiums, as flimsy as it is. But Robin, why? We could have just had two finest. I will say this is a really attractive book. It's built really well. I don't really know this Robin material that well because, again, I'm not a DC person. This is kind of a lot of this is my intro to DC. Do you see this? This is a mess. I have nothing. There's no room left. Why am I still buying comic books? I don't know. Okay. Would you believe that there's still like a solid 12 books that we haven't talked about yet? So while I was getting compendiums, I made one big IST order, and I basically just threw all the 90s compendiums in there. So I also got this Green Lantern compendium because I said to myself, I wonder if they're even going to crack into the 90s in Green Lantern for the run that comes before this, because that, of course, is all Gerard Jones material. And so maybe let's just pick up this Kyle Rayner one now, which I don't think Gerard Jones is anywhere in the credits for this one because Ron Mars had taken over at this point. Yes. Anyway, so that's my story. Oh, but I think Gerard Jones wrote that issue. Hold on. Nope, Ron Mars. Okay, so now I have that too. And I do have a Kyle Rayner guide. So what is my excuse for having that? I don't know. All right, but this I already showed on stream briefly 2 weeks ago. I'm so happy this exists. This is Alpha Flight by Jim Lee and Bill Mantlo. It collects a huge, huge hunk of Alpha Flight. It's one of my most wanted things because Alpha Flight is one of the few uncollected Marvel series now of the 80s and 90s. Like, we're so deep. We're down to things like Darkhawk, Sleepwalker, but you know, Alpha Flight started in 1983. And so this is actually, in terms of when series began, the oldest series that is this uncollected that was long running. And so we probably still need 2 more books to finish it. You could have heard me talk about that at length on the Tiger Eyes poll. I'm looking, and of course there's nowhere to put it. Oh my gosh. Okay, that was too heavy for that. Let's see. Let's do some comments. Near the top of my wish list for the next Spidey movie is a battle damaged suit. His nanotech Stark suits never get damaged. When he's fighting the bad guys, I want a ripped suit and torn mask, right? That is kind of like quintessential Spidey, seeing the suit get beaten up as he goes. I liked it when somebody asked on a stream, is Justice League 3000 still in continuity? I could pull that book out of my bookcase and look it up. Yeah, exactly. I love reading digital, but I will say, when I'm trying to quickly mill through a guide and just check creator credits or check the lengths of issues or a page count, doing it digitally means I have to hit Marvel Unlimited or DC Universe, and I've got to load all of those pages, and at least I have a faster computer now, but that just takes time that you can't reduce. Like, you can't go any faster. The page load has a minimum page load time, and it's not going to load any quicker than that. Whereas with a book, you can kind of flip through, and that's really, really useful for me. Robert Skundis would really like a collection or omnibus of the non-Batman Detective Comic stuff and the non-Superman action comic stuff. That will be on the Tiger Eyes poll to vote for. Like the other stories in Amazing Fantasy 15, interested to see what could have been, what other characters and stories could have taken off. And I also think that all of those kind of background stories are really cool looks at the time. I love seeing that kind of glimpse into what did they think was popular at that time? Was it crime? Was it romance? Was it like what filled out the back of the book at that time. Black Magic coming back soon. Body by Leafield. Hello, I was just talking to you on Dear Mint before I went to bed last night. Was just grab that Black Magic book when buying all of Lazarus. Hooked on Rucka, cannot go wrong. Cedric and Ellen love Black Magic. So all of you love Black Magic. Is she actually? She is a police officer. She is. She's not a private investigator. I'm sure. I remember her being in the police precinct, and like her partner doesn't know she's a witch. Yeah, Cedric and Ellen saying she is a police detective. Harbinger was the bee's knees, saying Al's in the barn. Planet 628, hello, saying Harbinger was the calm in a storm of 90s extreme. Comics only keen saying, I do love gilded edges. Sprayed edges are also nice, especially when I have lovely patterns or are ombre. Morford is only 44, but after my dad passed, I've been thinking every day I need to sell my Omnis and just stick to digital. It's how I read most of my comics anyway. Yeah, I shouldn't have this collection. I shouldn't keep adding to the collection. The only thing that continues to encourage me is Kid Crisis does love to read it, and it's so fun when she's like, hey, do you have any power pack? I'm like, yep. Hey, do you have any X Factor? Yep. How do you, like, no matter what she asks for, I have. And I mean, I know I'm spoiling her. What other kid in the world other than Omar's kids lives in a house where no matter what comic book you say, your parents like, yep. Chubby Ray says, my wife walked in the living room, looked at the TV and said, what are you watching? I told her Crisis, and she stood here inside, and I said, my God, I love Crisis. And you're not even seeing me with the full, the normal look that I've got. Al's in the Barn, 80 Blue Beetle was loads of fun. Also 80s Mr. Miracle and Captain Adam. Super Job, would you do a Jamie Blue Beetle as a separate line? No, I think we're starting to see the shape of some of these lines form, and I don't think they're going to split the lines. I think the titles are the titles. I forget why I feel like that. I think because of Supergirl, because they're doing Peter David Supergirl, and they're also they did 1950s, 60s Supergirl, and I think there's another line like that too, where like I was like, oh, they're really not going to break these lines up. Like the title of the line is just the title of the line. So Flash, if they ever want to do Jay Garrick Flash, it'll be in the Flash. Green Lantern, if they ever get that far in Green Lantern, I think it will include Kyle. I don't think they're going to split it up. Seeing me without my glam lips, like seeing your teacher at the supermarket. I know I wanted to do bigger lips, but I wasn't sure. I didn't want to like have it rub off in the mask, and I didn't know how comfortable the mask was or how much the mask was going to travel on my face. I think I will probably do bigger lips because, in the words of Katya Zamalashkovna, I do have thin, villainous top lip, and I don't like seeing it without my normal size lips. Here's Chubby Ray's YouTube, by the way, for everybody to go and subscribe to. Okay. And Cyberbot 2044, hello, saying all these DC books look amazing. Here's a Hawkeye Epic Collection, Epic number 3. This is an important one because it collects to the end of Avengers Spotlight, which we've never had completely collected before. So this is Hawkeye Epic Volume 3. And this is all of the stories from every issue of Avengers Spotlight, some of which is not Hawkeye. In this case, it is Stingray. So it's really cool that they put them under the Hawkeye line name. I thought that was like really interesting and not something Marvel usually would take a chance and do. But I think it was the right thing to do. And they didn't even call it like Avengers or Hawkeye and the Avengers or Hawkeye and the Solo Avengers. They just called it the Hawkeye Epic Collection. They used that as an excuse to collect all of Avengers Spotlight, which was kind of like the Avengers random Avengers being solo series in the backups. We also have another Epic Collection. Is this new? I guess this is new. Avengers Time Flight. It is new. I remember ordering it. This is Avengers Volume 27. And it takes us to Avengers 402. So this takes us through the crossing and to the end of Onslaught. Interestingly, they did not pull in any X-Men issues of Onslaught. This is just the Avengers issues of Onslaught. And then Onslaught Marvel Universe. And then the Avengers go away. They're gone. And that's the end. So then, of course, after this would be the Avengers and the Heroes Reborn universe, which would, I guess, be the next Epic Collection. And then in 1998, they start the George Perez Avengers. Now, will that be the first volume of Modern Avengers? We don't know, because we don't have any Avengers Modern Era yet. We have New Avengers Modern Era, which starts from number 1. But we've seen in some other lines that Marvel has crossed the 1988 barrier into the 1998 barrier into books from after 1998, and they've kept up the original numbering. So we saw that with Thor the Dark Gods, Epic Volume 25, has Thor 1998 1 through 13 in it. So that extended past the Hero's Return, and it still kept up the original classic Epic line and didn't switch to the modern Epic line. So it kind of feels like for all of the people who went to the Onslaught Pocket Universe and came back, that the books will continue numbering to until they relaunched in 2003 through 7, like around Avengers Disassemble. Whereas for other books that restarted in 1998 and didn't do Onslaught, it seems like that's the start of the modern era for them. So it's kind of weird. Daredevil's going to start modern era in 1998, but Fantastic Four, Thor, Avengers, Iron Man, it looks like they're all going to continue their old numbering into 1998. Did that make any sense? I felt like I was talking total nonsense. I'm definitely I've lost the stamina to be on the streams for this long. And there's so many books left. So let's talk about something that you never thought you would see me buy. And that's because I had no idea what it was. So sometimes the Tiger Eyes poll sends me down a rabbit hole. I was working the day before the poll closed because I was so behind on the posts. I was working to put up the post for these comics, and I realized it just didn't feel like I had put enough effort into it. It just was like, there's a lot of this in it. So if you don't know, the Tiger Eyes Most Wanted poll is a poll that happens every year where you get to vote for your most wanted Marvel omnibus. I hope all of you voted on it because it was a big, big deal for me and for Omar and for Tiger Eyes and everybody involved. I used to, 10 years ago, watch along with everybody else as they posted the results. Tiger Eyes posted the results on the Marvel Masterworks board, and I would live blog as if I was like live blogging a sporting event and try to figure out the mapping of the books as he announced them. It's wild to me now that 10 years later, I am now part of the poll team, and I am putting up the mapping for every one of 607 books that we have on the poll. All the mapping for every book is on CrossGen Krisis. It's wild to me. It used to take me a week just to map the 60 books in the top 60. And now I have the maps to every book. So I was doing the mapping for these books. It was one of the last few posts. And I just felt like I hadn't put in enough effort. It was very like, this contains 1 to 40. And I'm like, well, that can't be right. There's got to be other nuance. So I started researching. I was like, who were the creators? What was the book about? Was there any anthology story that went around? And the deeper I got into my research, the more and more obsessed I became. And these happen to be 2 books that Tiger Eyes himself and also Pollmaster Jim, BFF Nut, are obsessed with. And as I got deeper and deeper, then I was emailing them, asking them questions. I'm like, guys, I know the poll's almost over and this is way late to be asking these questions, but can you explain XYZ? And so by the time I got to the end, I was like, you know what? These omnibuses aren't going to be around forever. I'm just going to buy them. So I have the Sigil omnibus here from CrossGen, which I've never read. I'd literally never seen the interior of a CrossGen book until I was working on the CrossGen Tiger Eyes post. And the more and more, I just didn't realize what they were. I just thought that they were like random creator-owned series that like cool creators worked on. I didn't know the scope of the artists that were on every series. And as I continued reading all of the artists that were drawing them, I was like, oh my gosh, like Craig Land, Jim Chung, all of these people that are huge stars. I didn't realize they were all at CrossGen. And then also, I did not realize CrossGen, and you know this is my personal kryptonite, was a shared universe. I didn't know. I thought it was just an imprint. So then as I was writing about these books and I realized they were all shared universe, I was like, you know what? I bet Marvel is, now that they're almost through all of 2099, there's really only 2 more 2099 books to do. I bet every 2 years, they're just going to slip in a random CrossGen book or a random new universe book until they just get them all out. I just think there's always room in Marvel's schedule for 1 or 2 kind of lower selling omnibuses. So I was like, I don't want to be chasing these later, wishing that I bought them. I don't like this cover, but the DM cover was $20 more. And for something I've never read before, I was like, I will just save my $20. So this is all of Sigil. Sigil is when Sam suddenly receives the sigil, a mark burned into his chest that grants him the vast power, but without any instruction or control, it makes him a deadly weapon, but also a target. Against the backdrop of war between Planetary Union and Saurians, Sam and his ragtag crew must travel the cosmos, battling their enemies and trying to unravel the mystery of the sigil. So the thing about the shared universe is all of them, some of them are in different realities, I think, if I'm understanding it correctly. You know what, this is already the string pack's already torn, so we're going to open it. They're in different realities, some of them, and some of them are in different times, but they could be in the same world in different times. So that's the other thing. I love that because it reminds me of early Image comics. There was like one book that's a deep space book, and one book that's like the ruins of Atlantis, and one book that's like a sword and sorcery book. Like that is so deeply my shit. So here's the under the cover for Sigil. And I guess I was just reading last night, somebody saying that they think stretching omnibuses is like a myth, or their friend who's like a book person, like a librarian or something, was like, you don't have to stretch an omnibus. But here's the thing. Even if the binding of a modern omnibus doesn't need to be stretched, I just think it pays to very carefully open and stretch the end papers, because we have all seen books come apart at the hinge of the end paper before, if they've been kind of like held in a precarious way or opened too quickly or opened too roughly. So I just, I just think opening just the ends of your book is good, even if you don't have to do a full stretch. So let's just open to a random page here. The thing that I loved about CrossGen as I was researching these, paper cut, as I was just researching these books more and more, is they have really big early image energy. Wow, that's a bad paper cut. So Sigil was written by Barbara Kessel and also by Mark Waid and Chuck Dixon. And it was originally penciled by Ben Lai, but also there's some Steve McNiven, Kevin Sharp, Scott Eaton draws a lot of it. I love Scott Eaton. So this is actually not the one that has like the biggest pedigree out of all of them. So I was kind of surprised that they led with this one instead of one of the ones that has like Mark Waid or somebody as a writer. But it also encourages me that we could get some of the other ones that Barbara Kessel did write, because Barbara Kessel, of course, not a huge multiple book selling name in modern omnibus game. And so I was worried as I was looking at the other CrossGen series, like, ooh, would we get all those Barbara Kessel series? Maybe they'll never collect her. And then I looked at Sigil and I was like, oh, she wrote Sigil. Okay, clearly there's just, that doesn't even fit there. Oh, I know. It's going to go down there. Okay. And now I'm also bleeding. Excellent. So then Mystic was already sort of unavailable, but I got an IST damages book, which I've never done before. And here's the damage. Ready? You see that? It's a little bit nicked on the dust jacket there. I think how that would happen is that maybe this was the bottom book in a stack, and the weight of it being the bottom book of a stack. Oh, actually, it's the remainder. No, I don't know. I really has the look to me of a book that was like at the bottom of a stack and just had a lot of things on top of it. Because the actual doesn't actually have any crush or bump on it. It's just the dust jacket. And you know what? It was the only one they had in stock of this cover, so I was gonna have to otherwise go on eBay or something. And it's got some corner bumps, but the actual book's in fine condition. The spine looks fine. It doesn't have any, doesn't really have, I mean, there's a little bit of a crush there, but I just think it was stacked really heavily upon. So this book, Mystic, is written by Ron Mars, who we love, with also Barbara Kessel. Yeah. But Ron Mars wrote the majority of the series. Tony Bedard also did some writing. And then art from Brandon Peterson, Steve McNiven, and others. So let's read you the copy about Mystic. On a world where society is based on magic, carefree party girl Giselle Villard wants nothing to do with it until the mysterious Sigil appears in her hand. Ooh, another Sigil. And transformers are the greatest mystic ever known. A reluctant Giselle must come to terms with their shocking transformation that puts her at odds with not only her sister Genevieve, who trained her whole life for this, but also the guild masters of Cirrus and the planet's greatest evil, the Demon Queen, Anamoria. So it's like very He-Man and She-Ra. Like, I love that. I love that. And I don't know what I thought CrossGen was, but I didn't fully realize it was this. And so now I'm in. And so now next year, you can expect to see me make some CrossGen choices on my Marvel Masterworks poll. Okay, or not Marvel Masterworks, Marvel Most Wanted. All right, y'all, I'm getting tired. I don't have the stamina for this anymore. Let's take a look at some quick chats and then look at the last few books. I really want those Robin and Nightwing compendiums. That Robin was where I began to love Robin as a character, says Lance the Library. Novar, we all have a sickness crisis. We all love comics too much. I told myself to stop buying books, and I still have 6 titles in my pull list because DC's crushing it. DC is great right now. I would agree. Chubby Ray's overcome with the sickness. Lance the Library is the sickness too. Chubby Way asking for a link to my Patreon. It's just patreon.com/crisis. And guess what? I know I've been saying for like 9 months that the prices are going to go up. I actually sat down this weekend and designed it. So I know what the prices are going to go up to. I know what the features are going to be. I just have to find the time to implement it. So it's finally going to gone. Crisis is gone, and now there's a commercial for Red Lobster. Oh, sorry. There are some minor commercials. Here's my Patreon, by the way. The obvious solution to my space situation is buy another house. Here's the thing. Houses in New Zealand are not big, or at least down here in Wellington, New Zealand, houses are not large. And I've looked. There are not. And they're expensive. I mean, we're talking to have a house that's like about the size of like a big house for like a family of 4 or 5 in America. I'm getting blood all over everything. You in New Zealand, you would need to, that would be like a $1.5 million house in New Zealand. And yes, in New Zealand dollars. So in US dollars, that's like an $800,000 house. But to me, that's like a $300 or $400 house. So yeah, I don't know that I have enough money for a $1.5 million house to house all of my comic books. I know you're only joking, but also that's the reality. Alpha Flight Omni Volume 3 incoming, I'm sure. And again, Maclock, I look at the DC omnibus lineup and I'm like, DC finds the way to put out niche books. They like, even the Spectre, which is very beloved and certainly has many fans. And I'm not trying to say the Spectre is like some niche book that nobody's ever read. It's certainly more well recognized than Alpha Flight, especially because Ostrander wrote it. But I'm saying, like, we're talking about DC characters that don't have the hugest name recognition, that don't have a current series, and DC still finds a way, and they find a way to do Golden Age, and they find a way to do House of Mystery, so that Marvel can't put out Alpha Flight. I get that Alpha Flight's a relatively small book, but I don't know. It's just crazy. The more and more I think about it, the more I think it's insane that Marvel has not put out some of the things that they could have. Richard saying, I think DC confirmed a while back that the character lines will go through everyone who had a code name. So Batgirl will cover cast and stuff. That's how I knew that they were going to go through everything, because the way that Batgirl volume breaks, where is it? Batgirl, Nobody Dies Tonight. It's obvious that there's going to be some Barbara Gordon material in the prior one. Wouldn't it be more sense to finish the classic line with Perez talking about Avengers and the modern with new? Yes, and I think that's what they're going to do. I'm just saying it's confusing because there are other lines where the modern line will already be like several books in, including Daredevil. There's no date, basically. They never said, personally, for moi, I would have said that modern lines will start with the first new series that began after 1998. That's where I would have made the cut. But it seems like they decided modern lines will start with, I don't know, because Modern Line starts in 1998. I guess they based it on when a series ended. Maybe that's how they said it. Maybe they were like, Modern Lines will start with series that ended after 2004. But Fantastic Four keeps going. So like, where's the Modern Line going to start with Fantastic Four? Maybe they'll start where they renumber it during Wade. Wade would be a good place to start the Modern Line. So yeah, it's just confusing. I like rules and rubric and things. So, I don't know. Yorne Paul is saying, enjoying the compendium paper more, and also I like that Robin and Nightwing have those instead of Finest. Yeah, I don't think they're a bad thing. I just think that it's like so weird that the Robin one especially could have been knocked out in Finest. Robert Secundus never read a CrossGen book, but the entire premise of the line has always been so intriguing to me. It's such a great idea for Universe Super Job. I didn't know CrossGen, fake Greg Gland fan. Well, you have to think, I have a pretty big blackout for comics that existed between 2000 and 2010, because I was off like finishing college, getting a job, like doing all that stuff. And when I came back, I only really know the ones that I was able to get in trade paperback from Marvel or that were on Marvel Unlimited, which is why I don't really have any DC knowledge from the 2000s either. Look, I fashioned myself like a little bandage out of an IST payslip. So a lot of Mystic was so good. Web Slinger Teacher is excited for the Byrne Elsewhen OHC, which is Byrne's fanfic of X-Men when he didn't write it. I cannot say I'm excited. I think it's very nice that he did it for his message board. I don't think it belongs in print. I don't like that people are now going to venerate it and be like, oh, what if this was X-Men? Everybody's got their fanfic. But I don't think Byrne had the juice for X-Men. I don't think he was the reason X-Men was great. And I don't think that I think it's nice that he's putting out. I'm very happy with the people that are buying it. But I would only buy that book if I needed an easy way to have portable toilet paper for a camping trip. Okay. Oh my God, Samantha and Z, that makes me feel I'm not buying enough Omnis. Never say that. You are my bad example. I learned it by watching you. Did you have that? I don't think you had that commercial in New Zealand. So for the people in New Zealand, there's this kid and he's like rolling a joint, or he's like smoking crack or something in his bedroom. And his father comes in and he's like, how could you? And the kid points to the father and he goes, I learned it by watching you. So when I say that, I mean, you got me hooked on drugs. But yeah, Sam, you can't possibly say you feel like you're not buying enough omnibuses. I literally am buying more omnibuses because I'm like, oh, Sam buys so many omnibuses. Logan Wayne saying the spine stretching debate happens every few months on Reddit. I've seen people use it to take shots at Omar as if he was the one who created the myth. It's so funny how much like knowledge or custom or whatever you want to call it, people attribute to Omar when it's kind of just like common practice. It's almost like as if there's a certain culture that says this is a great example, Drag Race. So a lot of drag queens speak certain lingo, like, oh, that's the tea, no shade, like whatever the words are. drag queens, I mean, that comes from drag, but it also tends to come from queer spaces. It comes from Black spaces, and all of that language. It comes from African American vernacular, and all of that language kind of funnels through drag and ballroom, and we get these catchphrases, and then they're in Drag Race, and then you have people like me in New Zealand saying these things that never would have heard them in some of those other sources. I do think Omar, and at certain times, is kind of like that, where like people don't know that book stretching was even a thing, and so they hear Omar educating them about it, and then it's like, well, Omar made that up. Well, no, we used to have a book stretching picture that we shared every time new people joined the Omnibus Collector Facebook group, which I had been in from like, I don't know, like 2014, it's Riley's group. Like that existed as far back as that group. Omar did not make it up. Here's a few things. So I have Kaya, I still don't know, Volume 5. This is one of those other books that I am buying physically. Wes Craig, if you haven't been reading this, I mean, you've heard, if you regularly watch the channel, you've heard me pitch it. People could pitch it in the comments, but it's so high quality. Wes Craig writing and drawing, but not coloring us. It's in this, and Android design lettering it. No, Napolitano lettering it. Sorry. It's such a remarkable book. It's a world where the human race is endangered by robots and by lizards and things that are all kind of sentient anthropomorphized creatures as well. And it's about the last kind of princess and prince of the human world, but they're just little kids. Their parents have been killed. And so they think that they might be able to restore their people, and that the kid might be magical, and they have to go on a hero's journey. But it's funny because it's kind of the kid's hero's journey, but the main character is the older sister, Kaya, who has this magical arm that can kind of like Wonder Woman's arm, an absolute Wonder Woman. It's so whimsical. It's so cool. It's like half a kid's adventure book and half saga. It's really got a lot in common with Saga in terms of the different factions and the war and everything, but it's also very, very much like a kid's adventure book. It kind of also feels like Dark Crystal a little bit. I just love it. I think it's so beautiful. I will absolutely buy it again if it comes out in oversized hardcover. I've been giving each one to Kid Krisis to read as they come out. So actually I've got to give her number 5 because I think she's only read through number 4. Okay, we're almost done. We have another X-Men epic. Now, we know I could go on at length about X-Men. This is the stuff I truly have committed to memory. This is quite possibly my favorite run of X-Men. This is my favorite part of the Claremont run. So this epic, which is Life Death, one of my favorite issues of all time here. This is Epic Volume 11, and this collects Uncanny X-Men 176 to 180, is that 6 or 8? 188, and all the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries. So this starts out right after the marriage of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, and it starts out after the, of course, failed wedding of Wolverine to Mariko. So this really has, Rogue integrating into the team. It has her being, at odds with the US government. Forge tries to depower Rogue. Instead, he depowers Storm. That issue has a monologue that when I first read it to Kid Krisis, when we were doing our read aloud X-Men, I'll try to find it in here, I actually cried. I was like so caught up in performing Rogue's feelings in the monologue. And it has when they come back from Secret Wars and there's a giant dragon in Tokyo. I was so caught up in Rogue's monologue. And so basically Rogue is trying to fight off Carol Danvers in her mind, and she's like losing her mind, and she's remembering half of herself as Carol Danvers and half of herself as Rogue, and it's just so powerful. And she's remembering herself as Carol Danvers. She says, we're on this page here, "This house, my brothers and I helped Dad build it. I was the oldest. I wanted to prove I was as strong and as capable as, so what if I was a girl? And there was an accident. I ended up with a wicked cut across my left hand. I know I've seen the scar. Impossible, Rossi, the skin isn't even marked. I never had a father. He ran away before I was born. I never had any sort of family at all until I met Mystique. My hair, why is it so short? It should be blonde. What happened to my face?" And it just builds and builds and builds. And she's like switching back and forth between the Carol Danvers personality and the Miss Marvel personality, trying to figure out which one is real and which one is supposed to be in the body. I love it. I love that run of X-Men. I truly think that run of X-Men from like 167 to 201, that to me is the best of Claremont, because by 167, he has the voices of everybody down, and like everybody's the version that you love. And starting after 201, he's starting to play with taking the team apart, shipping people off to other books. The line is getting bigger. X Factor is about to start, or actually has started at that point. I think like the pure perfected version of Chris Claremont X-Men exists between 167 and 201. That's my feeling. We have a DC Finest here, Doom Patrol. It is Doom Patrol, the death of the Doom Patrol. So I do believe this is the second Doom Patrol DC Finest. And it actually does some skipping around because it collects the end of their original Silver Age series, which wraps up in 1968. Then it has a brief bit of material from 1973, and then it has material from 77, 78, and 79. So if we look at the DC Finest mapping for Doom Patrol, so this is the second DC Finest of Doom Patrol. We already have the first one, The World's Strangest Heroes. After this one, we will need a book that collects some in-between material, some of which was in their omnibus line. They appear in a couple of issues of Daring New Adventures of Supergirl. They appear in an issue of Teen Titans Spotlight. And then they get into their own series in 1987. So this one, I really was surprised that this didn't collect all that until I saw the page count. Our estimated page count was 662 pages, but actually the actual page count of this is only 573 pages. So I really think they could have gotten in the Daring Adventures of New Supergirl, the Teen Titans issue, and Secret Art Engines Annual 1. It would have only been another probably 60 pages. And then the next one could have started clean in 1987. So I don't really understand why they made the mapping decision they did here. They had the page count, and I don't know why you wouldn't have crossed into the 80s to collect that remaining stuff, which is very separate from their series starting in 1987. I just don't understand. But the next book will be the beginning of their 1987 run, and that will probably collect all of that run before it becomes a Vertigo title starting, well, not really, but like in feel, in 1989. And then we already have solicited the Rachel Pollack material that starts in 1993. So basically there's only going to be 3 volumes between this and there. There's going to be that pre-Vertigo when they're still kind of normal superheroes. That'll take us through 1988. Then we're going to have 1989 to 1993, which is the Grant Morrison run. And then we will have Rachel Pollack's run, which they've already solicited. Having that solicited is kind of a big deal because we know that DC Finest is not necessarily afraid to do Vertigo era stuff in DC Finest. So that kind of indicates to us that we will probably also eventually get Animal Man and Swamp Thing. Mystic should have gone on another 5 years. I wish. Yonai Paul is saying that I noticed the huge jump. Millie the model had in the poll 130 rank jump compared to 2025. You know, as older stuff gets collected, people are realizing they can vote for this stuff. One Wheel Track saying when I'm stretching an omnibus, I go through every single page. I don't know if that's excessive. I kind of just do ends and then kind of like 100 pages at a time, opening to the middle, and I do it like 3 times. Electric X Alpha, hello to you. Even the fact that Spectre has a Finest is wild to me. Omnibo checking in from across the ditch. The housing situation in the US isn't the best either. You need to work 5 jobs to break even with 2 people living in the same house. I'm only semi-joking. Lance Library saying, I'm not a fan of the modern branding. It seems unnecessary, especially as we get further away from a lot of those books being modern. Yeah, seems like modern should have started with like modern now. Really. Weird Super Job saying, by the way, I'm so glad they announced the Swamp Thing Finest and the new omnibus is so close together, saves me $100. DC, you know, I've been thinking about this a lot this weekend. DC seems to have really caught on to the idea that like omnibuses and standard size collections are not competing with each other. They're just not. And it's actually not a bad thing to announce an omnibus and a standard size collection at the same time because the retailer has comps. If somebody sees the omnibus and they're like, that's pricey for my blood, they can be like, hey, I can hand sell you this Finest as a sampler. It's so cheap. Then, you know, come and sell it back to me and I'll sell you the omnibus. Or somebody's like, oh, I love this DC Finest. Is there more of this? It lets them upsell and be like, yeah, there's an omnibus out. DC seems to, Marvel just has this feeling that they're like scared of the material coming out too close together, which is a very Disney feeling. It's very the Disney, the Vault kind of vibes. Whereas at DC, they are just so much more accustomed to the book market. And it really feels like DC's position is like, yeah, like put them out. The people who buy the omnibuses are not also buying the DC Finest unless you're a crazy person like me. They're buying one or the other, so you're not cannibalizing the audience. The only way that you're cannibalizing the audience is you're trying to force your audience that wants the Finest to buy an omnibus or the other way around. Why not just like bring the material out at the same time? One Wheel Track saying, we already have John Byrne's Hidden Years. I think that's enough solo Byrne X-Men for me. First appearance of Forge in that Uncanny X-Men epic. The Life Death cover features 2 of my favorite X-Men. One Wheelchair X saying, need Uncanny X-Men volume 4 Omni reprinted so I can have this part of the run in oversized. Richard saying, I read the stuff in Omnibus recently. Barry Windsor Smith's art is so good. Jean Remy, hello. Glad I was able to catch the stream, and great mask. Lance the Library also loves that Rogue issue. It is one of my favorite ones of all time. The Smotherly Lion saying, catching up from the beginning. Good to see me back on a Sunday live, or is it a Monday? It is a Monday for me. I'm really trying to get back to this date. I really want to do the fantasy omnibus poll. I have a crazy week of work this week, and I'm getting my final checkup on my arm to see if I'm like approved to go swimming and do like heart like exercise again, and other stuff in my life too. So this week is going to be a pretty big week. I don't know if I'm going to have fantasy omnibus better for next week. Part of why I love this whole nonsense is, again, I can just jump on really quick. I could even jump on between other things. Like if I have a work meeting and then I've got to go pick up Kid Crisis at school, I could just throw on a luchador mask and like talk to you for an hour. So even though I love totally made up drag Crisis, who usually appears and will continue to appear, I do like this. By the way, when I do launch those Patreon changes, I was thinking that after we do an official stream, I might do slightly less Q&A in the official stream because, oh my gosh, there's stuff to get through. And then there might be Crisis Unmasked after the stream, where literally I just close the stream, open up an unlisted stream that's only on Patreon, and you literally see me take off the wig and take off the mask, and then we just chat. So I'm thinking, because I've always wanted to find a good way to have a video benefit on Patreon. And it's like, I don't want to lock any like pull list or any going over hauls or anything behind the Patreon wall, because it just doesn't, it feels like that's a public conversation I want to have. But I do kind of like the idea of just having this kind of chatty stuff one-on-one. So that might be something that I try soon. Lance Library really wants that upcoming Swamp Thing Dark Genesis omnibus, the 2 omnibus set. The recoloring is so amazing because it's not a modern recolor. It's a full color restoration, and it's beautiful. I've side-by-sided the few pages that they put out as previews with the original. The color matching is perfect. It's restored with so much care from Jose Villarrubia. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more books. Here's one of them, a book I never in my life thought would exist. It's Excalibur Omnibus Volume 4. I kitty on the spine. I can't believe this exists. I couldn't even believe we got in Epic Collections as quick as we did. And then for Marvel to put it out so soon after the Epic Collections, this collects the entire Ben Robb run on Excalibur from Excalibur 104 to 125. It also has the Kitty Pryde Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. miniseries and New Mutants Truth or Death and X-Men True Friends and the Excalibur miniseries from 2001 that follows where everybody has been in the few years after this ended. And I've told the story in other streams recently, but I remember buying that Excalibur miniseries when I was putting together the stacks, because in 2012 we had no concept that Excalibur would even ever be collected outside of the Chris Claremont and Alan Davis stuff, let alone collected in omnibus for the whole run. It was unimaginable. And I just remember paying so much money for that miniseries because the covers were white, and it was so hard to get decent versions of that because they all get so beat up, and I wanted okay looking versions, even though I was going to bind them. So I have them in a box, and now I can sell them if anybody in New Zealand wants them, because I have it all in oversize and in Epic Collection. Because yes, I am that freak that is buying both of those formats. And once again, I am out of space to put things. Just put it down here. Okay. We have a Captain America, and this is actually, this is exactly what I was talking about. This is Captain America Volume 24. It starts in 1998. It's collecting Captain America 1998, 1 through 14. It's called American Nightmare. Now, we had trades of all of this. I think this is Mark Waid, right? All of this Mark Waid run with Kurt Busiek and Roger Stern, but I think primarily Mark Waid on Captain America. So I've probably got this somewhere in the stacks downstairs, but I do like having all the Epic collections. But again, why isn't this a modern Epic? I don't know. Okay. Then we have this ROM Volume 3 of the original Marvel years, I think, with one of the most iconic ROM covers. Looks like he has a little smiley face on his belly there. And this is collecting ROM number 34 through number 47. So these are a little bit slim as well. But Marvel, I think, I want to say they just solicited the last one. The series only goes up to 75. I'm waiting for it to all be here until I could read all of it. So I don't really know a lot about ROM, although I do have a guide to ROM, but I've never really read a ton of ROM. And of course, there are Marvel heroes which appear over the course of this. I just saw a page with some Submariner on it. But I'm really excited to finally sit down and read all of ROM all at once we have all of the Epic collection. So that's going to go there. Okay, we're just speed running through the end here. We have an Amazing Spider-Man collection, number 12. This is Amazing Spider-Man 207 to 223. So this is basically the contents of the last Amazing Spider-Man omnibus, which I think was Omnibus Volume 6, just as an epic collection. Clearly, we've had it in other formats before, because it's to have it in omnibus. We've already had it in Masterworks. This era of the book is written by Denny O'Neil. I don't really know a lot about it. That's all I will say about it, because as you can tell, I am ready to get this mask off my nose. We only have 2 more books to show. Here's another one that's Tiger Eyes' fault, because during our video streams with him, it was very prominent on the shelf behind him. And then when I did my top 60 on this channel, I talked about wanting to get the Silver Age book that comes before this. And I guess I would eventually be in Epic Collections. But if anything, it kind of feels to me like they're not winding the Epic Collection line down, but it's like, I don't know how many new Epic lines they're going to open up. And this is one that we could have a line of Kazar in Epic, but I think like they're struggling even to release Punisher Epics. I just don't know if Kazar would sell enough. So there are some books, like I think there's a reason we haven't seen New Warriors in Epic. I think it was enough of a struggle for them to sell New Warriors in Omnibus, and so it's just going to be an Omnibus line. So while I could, and you'll notice this price is not American dollars, it's New Zealand dollars. Actually, I think it might have been from Australia. I found this locally. It's one of those books I had in my cart 100 times. I know I like Kazar. I actually specifically like the art in this series, Kazar the Savage from the early 80s. And I skipped it because I'm like, I'm just going to wait for Epic Collection. I'm not collecting Kazar and oversize. But I have all of Silver Age Kazar up here. And so I gave in. And since I was in a little bit of a binge, I was like, let's get it. It's on the shelf. And now that it's on the shelf, I guess Marvel might print it. And then this, I don't know if this is actually new or if it was just in the stack anyway. But I get to hold up one of my favorite books of all time. It is the first Wonder Woman Golden Age, which I know this material incredibly, incredibly well. It is Wonder Woman introducing Wonder Woman. I love that this is not even the cover of an issue. It's actually the interior splash page of the first page that Wonder Woman appears in Sensation Comics. I have a great love of this material. I grew up on this material. Kid Krisis is reading. Actually, I guess it's not the first splash page because no, it is. But where are these? Where are the guns? Maybe it was the cover. Now I'm confused. No, it wasn't the cover. They didn't even have the cover in here because the cover was something totally different. I don't know where this cover came from. Where did they get? I guess the men shooting at her. I guess they like composited the cover and the men shooting at her from some other page, which even makes it more interesting. That's the thing that like does. It was the cover of the first Sensation Comics. I was confused, but the cover of the first Sensation Comics, because that was her little intro story from All Star Comics. I just saw the leaping Wonder Woman, and in my mind, I was like, that's from an interior page. But then ultimately, that was the cover of Sensation Comics. So I revere this Golden Age Wonder Woman material. I think it's very readable. Kid Krisis now finished the entire Golden Age. She finished the entire Silver Age. She's reading Diana Prince right now. And she's like, honestly, the Golden Age is really readable. I would go back and read it again. I found it really enjoyable. So there you go. And I think I'm all the way at the bottom of the chat at the moment. Brian Williams can't even believe the Excalibur Omnibus is already out of print. I think Marvel at the moment, Logan Wayne is terrible. I think they have very few good books, and the few good books they do have is by the grace of creators who are making good books without good editors. They need not an editor, not a writer shake up, although they do need some different writers, just in general. They don't need an artist shakeup. They need an editor shakeup. I think they've been playing musical chairs with the same editors for too long. No hate to them. A lot of them are really talented people. And then there's also Tom Brevoort. I really think that it's time that they just have some new editorial blood. They used to have a great bench of junior editors, and then they fired a bunch of them a couple years ago. Who knows? Maybe they were bad at their job, but it just feels like a lot of the same old solutions and the same old scheduling problems and the same old bad artist and colorist rotation problems that they've had for years. And there's nobody bringing any innovation to it or change. One Wheelchair X saying, talking about Marvel, it's so depressing to see that X-Men barely cracks the top 30 on monthly comic sales these days. All the excitement and momentum from Krakoa well and truly wasted. Al's in the Barn saying it's more or less the cover of Sensation 1. Yeah, I talked myself out of that eventually. Planet bought Kazar for the Anderson art during a late night Omni Binge. Oh my God, Samantha saying I need to hurry up and give us new epic lines. Late night Omni Binge sounds fun, says Nick N 1978. And Lance loves Golden Age Wonder Woman. Richard B is reading The Legend of Wonder Woman Finest and enjoying it. And we've made it to the bottom of the chat. So y'all, I'm going to try to be back on your Sunday, my Monday, to the best of my ability. But, you know, life is a little bit crazy right now, so I can only do my best. But I want to start being back in front of you. I missed you. I missed you all, and I miss doing this. Even when life is crazy, I'm trying to find ways that I can just be on and be on briefly. CrossGen Krisis needs a lot of updates. I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of comics I want to read. I haven't caught up on my pull list basically since August, except for that Cheetah and Cheshire book. And I would like to start doing some Patreon specific video stuff. So I always have big plans. And are those big plans all going to come to fruition in the middle of poll season? No, because we have to get the DC poll up on March 7th. Luckily, the DC poll data is so much cleaner than the Marvel poll data. And so I've already got it on public review on both Reddit and the Marvel Masterworks board. That's going to close down tomorrow. We're going to take all the comments from the public review. We're going to revise the listings. And then I'm going to start putting the mappings up on CK starting this week. So you can be on the lookout that on CrossGen Krisis. For those of you who have joined the Patreon, I'm so appreciative of that, especially a weekend like this weekend where I need to reach out to my web host and be like, I get the feeling this is going to cost me money. The Patreon is what allows me to do that. CrossGen Krisis, I cannot express to you, not only does it mean a lot to me and it's my home on the web, it is used by thousands of people a day to understand comic books and the mapping of comic books and how to collect comic books. And we're at the point that the site is of a size that I could not make it happen without Patreon. Even if I was funneling money hand over fist from a full-time job into it, which I try not to do, it would be really hard to keep it up on its own. It requires the support of Patreon. At first, Patreon was like a nice to have, like, oh, hey, maybe I can like get a new WordPress theme. At this point, Patreon does keep it running. And I know I'm not putting out tons of new exclusives, but there's 100 guides that are available at the $2 Patreon level. So I would say it's very, very much worth it. And I'm updating guides all the time. So that's my little CrossGen Krisis pitch. The next time you'll see me, hopefully we'll be on here for a few more Sundays. I really want to do that Marvel Omnibus. Well, I can't talk. The mask, it's compressed. It's like squeezing this all. I guess it isn't like a custom fitted mask. And maybe I do have it laced a little too tightly. But anyway, I really want to do the Marvel Omnibus Fantasy draft. So that might be one of the next couple weeks. I finally got to put all these books on the shelf. And of course, now I can like organize the shelves because they're a total mess. So I don't know what else I'm going to be here to do on a Sunday. On my YouTube community post last week, you guys made some great suggestions, so feel free to keep suggesting. Some of them are really good. I do know after the poll season, I want to get back to near mint condition to do an evergreen show, which we haven't done in months, and to do another one of those how to collect XYZ and Omnibus ones, like the X-Men show. I'm so proud to say that the How to Collect X-Men and Omnibus show that Omar and I did at the end of January is now the most streamed ever stream on Near Mint Condition. And it's only been 3 months. That's crazy to me. It's been more streamed than his Fast and Furious review, which was very, very high streamed, more than any of the Tiger Eyes things we've done, any announcements. Of course, he has uploaded videos that have more views, but of any live stream in Near Mint Condition, our X-Men stream is the most popular. That is so meaningful to me. It's wild to think about. And I think it's some of the best work that we ever did. So I really want to get back and do that some more. So I'm going to go now and go unmask. Next time that I put more planning in this, there may be a Crisis Unmasked after this. We'll see. So until I see you again, let's remember to go out into this world and give love and support and respect to other people. Because you know what? It hurts nobody to be angry at art. And let's not get angry at people who are angry at art. If somebody doesn't like the art that you like, that means they engaged with the art that you like. That's a good thing. Let's stop caring about and worrying with people who don't like our favorite character or our favorite artist or our favorite drag queen or our favorite TV show, and just love that they're people who appreciate art in general. If we put out that love and respect into the world, if we support trans people who have a war is being declared on them by a bunch of people who really have nothing better to do with their lives, that trans people are not affecting them in the slightest and they're not harming anybody else, we need to stand up for them. We need to stand up for immigrants all around the world. I'm an immigrant here in New Zealand, but I'm not saying this because I'm an immigrant. I'm seeing scenes from the United States that to me look like scenes that I never thought I would see from another country in my life, let alone the United States. It's so important to just voice your concerns, call your congressperson, your senator, your House of Representative, even your state House of Representatives. I still make those calls because I still can vote in the United States. And one of my senators does not give a shit, but the other one doesn't actually give a shit either. So I'm a little bit out of luck based on senators, but I still make those calls. And I encourage you to too. We do not want to see people deserve respect. They deserve to be treated as people. There's no such thing as an illegal person. As somebody who was almost deported from New Zealand at one point, it's nice to be able to talk to your government and have rational, kind people answering your questions on the government side who are trying to help you be in compliance and work with them and make your visa work. work. So, I could go through the list of all the people that are oppressed in the world right now. Black Lives Matter, that let's stop any hate against Asian people, which is such a ridiculous racism to come back to when I can go and read it in historic books like Golden Age Wonder Woman from 1942. How are we still doing that 80 years later? I don't know. So my point is, man, save the hate for the comic books, okay? Can we just save the hate for the comic books? Or if you hate the wig, that's fine. There's so many other wigs you're going to see sometime soon. But until I see you again, whether it's as my the masked crisis superhero persona, or whether it's the other crisis persona that you usually see, please try your very best to not have a crisis. Unless, by some chance, of course, it is me. Thank you, everybody, and take care.